Okay, my dudes, we are going to get this going. Y'all know exactly what we do every single night. Real money fantasy football drafts. These are not mock drafts. I am tired of seeing mock drafts that don't matter whatsoever. These are real money fantasy football drafts, and we've done this every single night for almost a month now. So if you are just now finding the channel, dear Lord, I don't know what to say to you. I don't know how much you missed out on, but we are going to continue to live stream every single night until kickoff with real money fantasy drafts. You can come out here. You can draft against me on the live stream. Just make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button so you know when we go live. And everybody who's in the live chat right now, all the notification gang coming out. We got Caden, Kevin, Mike, Leonardo, Michael, Christopher, Andy, Jay Lorenzis. We got everybody. Isaac out here as well. Thank you, everybody coming out. Y'all know exactly what we're doing. Let me go send out the first link to the first draft on Patreon. And let's not waste any time. Let's just get right into this. We sent out that link on Discord. We sent that on Patreon. Now let's switch this over. And I think that we should be good to go. Okay, so guys, if you don't know, the first draft is always sent out on Patreon with that link. And then from there, all the other drafts are filled through the YouTube live chat for anybody who comes out to the live video. Of course, you see on Patreon that you have a decent shot to get in these drafts. If you just see that it fills up a lot slower than the drafts that get sent out on the live chat, we still got one more spot available for someone to go hop in on Patreon. I'd imagine that gets filled in about 5 seconds. And maybe, just maybe, we can get a $250 draft going tonight. I mean, we did 2 of them yesterday. Now here, let's see where we're going to go. In a $10 draft, I'm fine. Give me any spot. I'll take the practice. Okay, at the 109, obviously don't love having the 109, but I like having the 109 a lot more in a $10 draft than I do in a $250 draft. So we'll take the 109 here. And then in the $250 draft we'll do later today, then you can go through, then you can give me the 101. We'll be happy with the 101 in that kind of draft. But let's go through and we can actually view it like this for 1 second. That way y'all can actually see the picks as they go off. And thank you everybody for coming out to the live chat. We got 100 people out here. We have 50 likes in the live stream before the first draft even happens. Thank you, my dudes. I promise you, we're going to get a lot of drafts going tonight. I'm excited about tonight. I mean, we are gearing up for the season. The season is very close. It's like in what, 9 days maybe? Today's Monday, so I'd imagine that's about 9 days. T-minus 10 days until the season. We got a lot of work to do. Y'all know we have already done probably closing. I've definitely passed 150 drafts. With all the drafts that I did today, we passed 150 real money drafts, not even including our dynasty leagues so far this year. I'm going to try to push that to 250. So we're going to get a lot of drafts going tonight. Now, Christian McCaffrey goes at the 101 to nobody's surprise. I mean, nobody really needs that much commentary here. If you're drafting in the beginning of the first round, you know you're going bell cow running back. Now, on Underdog Fantasy, there's a little bit of a different strategy and possibly looking to go with a receiver early, considering the fact that you actually have to start 3 wide receivers on Underdog Fantasy. Now, Isaac coming out with a donation says, still waiting for Underdog to email me back about my account. Hopefully, I get it fixed soon. How's your day, Mason? No, my man. Please do not hesitate. Shoot a DM to Underdog support. Shoot a DM literally anywhere on like Twitter, Instagram. I promise you Underdog gets back to you like that. So if they haven't gotten back to your email, I don't know why that is. Make sure you shoot them a DM on Twitter. And my man, I'd be willing to bet anything that they get back to you in like 1 second. But I am excited. I'm just excited to get these drafts going, my dudes. We didn't live stream an injury update in the middle of the day, even though our guy, Trey Lance, suffers a finger injury. It's not that big of a deal. I didn't feel the need to go out there and live stream it because obviously we weren't expecting Lance to start week 1 anyway. But yeah, that wasn't good. Regardless, besides that, I'm just excited to get these drafts going. I've been waiting all day for today. I mean, I did like 22 Patreon podcasts today. Patreon podcasts, while I love making them, they're not nearly as fun as live streaming. Okay, so now we have Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler. Yadiel says, what do you mean we do? In my draft, I got CMC at the 103. Yeah, I actually just broke down a team over there on Patreon for Yadiel, and I was so confused because we were looking at his team, and I pulled it up, and he actually sent over the entire draft for us. Like, he sent exactly where he got certain players, and I saw that he had Christian McCaffrey on the team, so I was like, okay, well, I guess this is the 101 team. And then I looked closer, and I was like, wait, you got Christian McCaffrey at the 103? Dear Lord, guys, never ever, unless you were playing in a 16-team Superflex League. If you're playing in a 16-team Superflex League, never consider going anybody else but CMC at the 101 in a 2021 Fantasy Football League. Obviously, Dynasty a little different, but for 2021, it's Christian McCaffrey. Now here, I think that we're actually going to start back-to-back running back. This is something that I think we've had to maybe adjust just slightly with the injuries that we have seen to the running back landscape. Y'all know I loved someone like a J.K. Dobbins. I was head over heels for Travis Etienne. Now they're no longer going to be available, so just taking 2 running backs out of the player pool, I think we do kind of want to go running back here. If we were playing in the big dog, those drafts are going to go a little differently, where I think we're shooting for more upside in a large field tournament, so there possibly we go receiver. But in just a standard 12-man league, I really like the idea, if you're drafting at the end of the first round, to go RB. We're going to get Aaron Jones and Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, someone that I've been adamant that if you're drafting him in the first round, if you're taking him over Eckler, over Barkley, over Taylor, over Antonio Gibson, you are making a massive mistake. But here, if we're actually going to get Nick Chubb at the 204 and it's a half PPR instead of a full PPR, we're going to be fine with that. Now, Carl coming out with a donation. Thank you, my dude. He says, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and 2 flex. Do I prioritize a wide receiver a little more in this league? Possibly can start 5 wide receivers. I have the 7th pick in a 10-team PPR format. 100%. In that kind of format where you can start up to 5 wide receivers, you need to make sure that you are emphasizing the position. And something that a lot of people are not going to talk about is the fact that you need a punt tight end. Tight end in a league like that is going to make up such a small percentage of your starting lineup output every single week. Whereas if I'm talking to someone who only plays 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, and a flex, there I'm telling them, go get Kelsey, go get Darren Waller, go get one of those elite players, because they're going to be making up such a high percentage of your starting lineup output that if you have an edge at the position, you'll be able to crush your league mates consistently. Where if you add on a few flexes, if you add on a starting wide receiver slot, that actually makes the tight end a little less valuable. And now we have a donation coming out from, okay, we got a couple. We got Brian says, I have Kyler Murray. Should I trade Stephon Diggs for DeAndre Hopkins? You should make a package like that. I think you should also try to find an upgrade elsewhere in your starting lineup, because you are giving out on some value. Now, Dami says, still 50-50 on this New Orleans running back situation. Hope TJJ wins. I have no idea what's going on in New Orleans, guys. I think that it's a little less valuable than a lot of people want to assume, because I think that it's not like the situation it was in the past, where if we had an Alvin Kamara injury now, I think that actually New Orleans is going to turn that into a split backfield instead of just where they used to in the past 2 seasons, give every single touch to Latavius Murray. That's no longer going to be the case. So I think the running back to New Orleans isn't as valuable as it has been in years past. And Jay Gee says, rumor is Le'Veon Bell is joining the Ravens. What are your thoughts? Okay, so Le'Veon Bell, honestly, not necessarily going to be changing too much here. We know Gus Edwards isn't going to get every single snap. We know Edwards is not going to be someone that's coming out and getting all the targets out of the backfield. He's not a good pass catcher. So Le'Veon Bell coming in, not changing my opinion on Gus Edwards that much, just going to make someone like a Justice Hill a little less appealing. So now David Montgomery goes at the 304 to the same team that took a Devonta Adams. I will say David Montgomery, very rarely see him go in this range anymore. I've actually been seeing David Montgomery more so fall to the beginning of the 4th round, the end of the 3rd, where I think we are fine with the value that if we're taking him after an Allen Robinson, after a Robert Woods, that's going to be a pick that I'm looking to make. But I actually have a lot of my own drafts starting out exactly with what Master did here, where if we're getting like a Devonta Adams in the middle of the 1st, I'm very happy to go to Joe Mixon in the middle of the 2nd. But there, even though I took a Devonta Adams, I'm still going to be doubling down on receiver in the 3rd round if that's the value that we perceive. Honestly, I probably would prefer having James Robinson over David Montgomery as well. But we got Chris Godwin going directly before us. So now when we are on the clock, this goes back to the scenario where y'all know I have Amari Cooper ranked ahead of Terry McLaurin. But if you look at the ADP gap between them and know that I'm going to be playing in probably 250 fantasy leagues, it's a boring take, but I do have to diversify just slightly, knowing that in any public lobby, I'm never going to be considering taking a Terry McLaurin here, because Terry McLaurin's never going to make it this far in the draft. Terry McLaurin is always going to be someone that's off the board by the time we get to this 304 selection. So when I'm playing in a private league with other people that are a little lower on Terry McLaurin compared to consensus, I guess this is going to be the spot that I end up having to draft him, even though it makes me look like an idiot because I don't like Terry McLaurin. I think there are so many reasons why when he's going in this range, when people are taking him over a Keenan Allen, a CeeDee Lamb, a Robert Woods, and Allen Robinson, a Chris Godwin, it's a horrendous pick. But if we're going to get him at the 309, not that big of a deal. Amari Cooper, I do like that value at the 311. Okay, so now let's go through and we get a little bit of a receiver run happening here. Now, obviously, Deandre Swift is less appealing now considering the groin injury and how things look like they're currently up in the air. So this kind of speaks on why we decided to go running back here. I mean, if it was before the injury that we had to a J.K. Dobbins, where Dobbins would be in play in this range, and also the injury to Travis Etienne, where we could have potentially got Travis Etienne at the end of the fifth. There instead, I would be going DeAndre Hopkins over Nick Chubb every single time. But now I'm going to be a little less excited about the running backs that we have in this range. And I actually think that we probably need to be leaning a little more at the receivers. So now let's pull this up. And obviously, we have a couple different things we could do here. We could go with a receiver, or we could end up actually going with Gus Edwards. Now, personally, I'm going to be moving Gus Edwards up into the same tier that we have a Josh Jacobs, that we have a Miles Sanders. So I think that we actually need to consider going with a receiver instead of him. So when it comes down between Tyler Lockett and Julio Jones, if this is a league where we're actually submitting a starting lineup every single week, when we have to try to find those spike weeks, then I'm going to be definitely fading Tyler Lockett, and I actually have Julio Jones ranked higher. But since this is a best ball league where we're actually going to get our lineup submitted at the end of the week with our highest scoring players anyway, Tyler Lockett is actually going to see a bump up in value in just that format. Now, I've talked about this time and time again, but guys, I can't be taking Mahomes. I can't be taking Mahomes in the fourth. The only time I'm taking Mahomes is if we get a Tyreek Hill, if we get a Travis Kelce in the first round, because there you actually do have the correlation. You're getting into the starting lineup. Whereas if we're taking Mahomes here, I think that the wide receivers that we're going to be looking at the end of the fifth, I mean, the best available wide receiver here, I promise you, I've done 150 of these drafts. I know exactly how it's going to go. I mean, the best receiver that we're going to be looking at on the board is going to be an Odell Beckham Jr. It's maybe going to be someone like a Robbie Anderson. So I would rather just honestly kind of avoid that tier. And instead, if we can get an elite level quarterback here instead, probably going to be something that I'm looking to do. And guys, if you have not gone down there and dropped a like on the live stream yet, what are you doing? We're going out here and live streaming every single night until the start of the season. Make sure you drop that like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And the chat is going really fast. So let me switch this over to subscriber only. And also, you know, I have to give this announcement. Guys, we are drafting on Underdog Fantasy every single night. This is where I'm drafting all day, every day. This is where I draft in every single live stream. This is my favorite place to play fantasy football in 2021. And we have, in my opinion, the best partnership that we could have ever gotten ever. And it's with Underdog Fantasy, my favorite place to play fantasy. I mean, it's literally the reason I reached out to them. I was like, please, can we do this? And they actually not only agreed to do the partnership, but they also agreed to sponsor our 2021 Fantasy Football Draft Guide and our 2021 rankings. So if you sign up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, you actually get $25 added to your account when you make a $10 deposit. You actually get our 2021 Fantasy Football Draft Guide, our 2021 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, our 2021 rankings, our 2021 tiers. Those rankings and tiers are going to be updated all the way to the start of the season, and it helps the channel tremendously. I'm telling you, if there's a tiny part of you that enjoys watching these videos and you think that it does anything and makes your day better in the slightest, the number one way that you can support this channel and make sure that we continue to get these next offseason, because trust me, I would love to do these streams leading up until next year at the same time. I want this sponsorship to go well. So please use Underdog Fantasy, promo code FLOCK, get the $25 added to your account. You're getting $25 paid to you for you to go out there and get into some real money fantasy football drafts. And you get our rankings, our draft guides, hundreds of pages of information. It literally makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. Underdog Fantasy, the reason I have to bring this up so often is because they said if we get 10,000 signups on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, that they will agree to go through and sponsor an event where we can fly people to Tampa, Florida to go to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game with me. We'll do a 24-hour live stream. We're going to do the Florida Flock meetup as well. So if you want to enter that giveaway as well, make sure you use promo code FLOCK when you sign up. You're getting so much, and also you're supporting the channel in return. So make sure you do that. And here, let's go through and let's check out this team that we actually have at the 101. And I will say, at the 101, I am not a fan of this start whatsoever. I mean, going through, and when you take a Christian McCaffrey, the advantage that you actually get at the entire draft, to be honest, is the strategy that you should be deploying when you take a CMC is you should be going wide receiver heavy from there. I mean, getting a Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the third, while it's a great value on paper, getting a Miles Sanders value in the fifth, while it's great value on paper. In reality, I mean, you're kind of negating the advantage that you actually get from a Christian McCaffrey and the floor and ceiling that he gives you at the running back position Instead, in a league where you have to start 3 wide receivers every single week and you have a flex spot, I actually would have really preferred to see this team go at the 301 with either Keenan Allen or CeeDee Lamb. I'm completely fine with George Kittle, especially when we have the injuries to the position and it maybe changes up the landscape just slightly. I'm fine with the George Kittle here. However, I think that we actually want to be seeing a receiver at the 301. I'm fine with Miles Sanders because we have that tier drying up at receiver. So yeah, that's one change that I'm going to be wanting to make. So we end up having Kyler Murray go at the 506 to a team that does not have any Arizona Cardinals, but still Kyler's going to give you the rushing production. Not going to necessarily just going through and saying that is a bad thing. And then we have someone in the chat saying Team 1 is better than yours. Okay, genius. Team 1 got Christian McCaffrey. Of course, Team 1's better than mine. Team 1 got the 101. I don't know what you're saying there. It's like, oh, hey, Team 1, he has the best player in fantasy. He has a better team than yours. Why are you talking bad about him? Good. Crazy skill. Earning the 101. The crazy skill. Okay, so Josh Allen goes to the 507. So obviously you have the falling rock here in a Jamar Chase. Javonte Williams goes. So we're going to just go out there and get someone we've been drafting consistently at the end of the 5th round. We are going to bring in a Lamar Jackson. This is someone that I think that is very appealing, in that even if we do not get the stack on the way back around with a Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson doesn't necessarily need that stack at the quarterback position, considering this is someone that can pick up the majority of his production on the ground. So that doesn't necessarily mean that his pass catching options are going to be coming out and having a lot of fantasy value either. So just because we can make a bet on a Lamar Jackson and not have to go through and draft any other Baltimore Ravens and it can still be optimal, I really like getting Lamar here. Now we have Laviska Shenault in the 5th round. Laviska Shenault in the 5th round. That is crazy. Okay. So guys, also make sure you are dropping a like on this live stream. Let's try to get this live stream popping. Let's try to get another $250 draft going today. Those $250 drafts, I just love recording them because, I mean, it's stressful. And I think that Underdog Fantasy is going to have an overlay. So I think there's going to be free league money in the pot. And I can't bring myself to draft a $250 draft if it's not on the live stream, just because I can convince myself on a live stream that it's at least bringing entertainment value for the channel if we go up there and stink up a $250 draft. So make sure you drop that like. Let's get some new people out here and let's get that $250 league going. Okay, so now when we're going to be picking at the 604, y'all know Mike Davis, not someone I'm interested in. Mike Davis has been someone I've been fading all offseason now. And I actually think when we go with an Aaron Jones and a Nick Chubb in the 1st and 2nd round, this is going to give us the flexibility to continue to draft wide receivers. Now, the only guys that we're going to be looking at are Chase Claypool and Robbie Anderson. Obviously, Anderson just gets that contract extension. They did draft Terrace Marshall this past offseason, but I mean, maybe you're a little excited about what you're actually going to have in terms of Deshaun Watson coming over. I'm not a massive fan of Chase Claypool, but honestly, we kind of have to go Claypool. I think that we would prefer Robbie Anderson in a vacuum. Like if we were going through and we were ranking these players, I would prefer Robbie Anderson over Claypool. But the problem is when I'm going to be in 250 drafts, we know that Chase Claypool very, very rarely is going in the 6th round. A lot of times he's actually going neck and neck with the Deontay Johnson. So I actually think that we kind of have to take Chase Claypool here to balance our portfolio. I'm definitely wanting a receiver once we start with these 3-down running backs locked and loaded into their respective roles. So yeah, we're going to go with the Claypool. It would have been down between a Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson, probably higher in my rankings. I mean, I just think that you're actually going to be seeing him in an offense that, well, yes, there's still a lot of competition for targets. At least they could skew a little more pass happy, but that's just my opinion and why I probably would prefer Robbie Anderson in a vacuum, but we have to take Chase Claypool here when we know that when we're playing in 250 leagues, there's going to be like no way that we see Chase Claypool making it to the 604 in mini drafts. Okay, Jayan says Shane Buechele made the 53-man roster. Happy for Shane. Happy for Shane. Okay, Chase Edmonds goes to the 609. Okay, so Jayan also said that it was a mistake when he drafted Kyle Pitts earlier. He said, I mean, he accidentally lost connection. So I'd imagine that Jayan probably wouldn't have gone with the Kyle Pitts. Knowing Jayan, I'd imagine that this actually would have been a wide receiver. I'm assuming that it would have possibly been a Jerry Jeudy. We can't say that for sure, though. We can't say that for sure. So yeah, he goes with Deebo Samuel, the quote-unquote falling value. Now, what's interesting is Tyler Boyd just rising, just a skyrocket up these rankings, up this ADP, where you've been seeing him go higher and higher and higher in drafts, with Jamar Chase falling to meet him in the middle. I mean, Jamar Chase was someone that was usually going in the middle of the 4th round, whereas now you're seeing him consistently go in the 6th. Tyler Boyd used to be able to get him significantly later than this. clearly just continuing to rise. Tyler Boyd actually started rising before Ja'Marr Chase even started falling, given Ja'Marr Chase's just preseason concerns. So yeah, I'm interested to know if in a week, when we get to the actual season, are these players going like neck and neck with each other? Because at this point, they're pretty damn close in ADP. Okay. So Devonta Smith goes at the 701. Someone I haven't drafted that much so far this season. Okay, so now Devonta Smith, Corey Davis. Corey Davis, another big-time riser. Now J.N. bringing in his 5th receiver to this team. Honestly, in this specific format, this is kind of what I would like to see when you get a Christian McCaffrey, when you would get a Dalvin Cook, or if you have any running backs in the second round falling to you in this range. If you have a Najee Harris, a Joe Mixon, a Nick Chubb, and Antonio Gibson, obviously, if you have one of those guys falling to the end of the second, then I think we go with them. But just due to the ankle concern that we have with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and how important week 1 points are in this format where we don't have the fantasy football playoffs at the end and it's just who can score the most raw overall points, I think there we actually probably prefer to just avoid drafting injured players overall. Okay, so let's switch this back over. There's a certain player that I'm really hoping that falls to us, and honestly, I think there's a decent shot that he does. I don't want to speak too much on this. So far our team, actually no, I think we don't even care if he falls to us. Never mind. I completely misspoke. I was thinking that we were going to take Russell Wilson here, understanding that we did have the stack with a Tyler Lockett that we could have brought in, but we have already drafted Lamar Jackson, so we can't really reach onto Russell Wilson. We're going to have to end up passing there, and it's going to be down between a Damien Harris, a Mike Williams, a Nicole Hardman. Y'all know I'm not drafting Raheem Mostert. I refuse to draft Mostert. Damien Harris, I don't necessarily like the value with, but if we're talking about a player that's about to be a significant fall off in the tiers, I think we actually kind of need to get at least one running back coming out of this turn. There are going to be a lot of these receivers that are in the same tier making it back to us. And if we look, we have about, just say, 5 or 6 picks between our 2 selections right now. And there's about a 0% chance that we get Damien Harris making it back, whereas we're going to have at least one of these receivers that we like. Hopefully we get either one of Russell Wilson or Justin Herbert getting drafted here. Possibly you see a team at the end decide to go with like a Justin Herbert and then a Mike Williams combination. I think that would make a lot of sense. Actually, you have Herbert going at the 7-10 ahead of Russell Wilson. This is the team that, I figured it was going to be the team that decided to draft Austin Eckler. That's a very intriguing call to go with Justin Herbert over Russell Wilson. Personally, I would go with Russell Wilson 10 times out of 10. Russell Wilson's going to be my guy over Justin Herbert with the consistency that we have seen. So yeah, that is interesting to see Justin Herbert go at the 7-10 to a team that has no Chargers so far on their roster. Okay, Mike Williams goes at the 7-12. It would have been nice if we would have, instead of drafted a Lamar at the 509, if we would have taken either Mark Andrews or TJ Hawkinson in the 5th round instead. And then we could have actually decided to draft Russell Wilson at the 709 because Wilson, obviously great value. It's hard to predict that you're going to end up having your Russell Wilson fall to you in that range. But maybe when we take a Tyler Lockett at the 404, it is a spot where we should go through and, okay, I guess maybe there's a small chance that Russell Wilson falls. And there we should probably be planning for the future. So y'all know who I'm going to be going here if we have the opportunity. Let's see what... Okay, so Logan Thomas goes. We get sniped on Logan Thomas. I thought Logan Thomas would have been a clear selection given the injuries that we have to Irv Smith, given the injuries that we have to the entire landscape. Logan Thomas would have made a lot of sense with that pick, but now that we don't do that, we're going with our guy. We're going with the wide receiver 2 in Kansas City. Don't try to convince me of anything else. Nicole Hardman is the wide receiver 2 there. If you want to try to make a bet with me, if you think Byron Pringle, if you think Demarcus Robinson, they are going to be the wide receiver 2 in Kansas City, you are flat out wrong. It doesn't matter what you were looking at. Nicole Hardman has been more productive than those wide receivers before his age 23 season than you would ever believe on a very limited snaps. Now Sammy Watkins leaving. Nicole Hardman is going to be playing a significant amount of snaps. Now, yes, he may not be in on 2 wide receiver sets because they're going to need a bigger bodied wide receiver in there that can improve the running efficiency of the offense. However, Nicole Hardman's going to be playing on every single 3 wide receiver set. And we understand that this is someone that should be able to take advantage of the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs run like 75% of their plays from a 3 wide receiver set. So yeah, we're going to go with Nicole Hardman there at the 804. Very excited about that. Okay, so now we have A.J. Dillon at the 806, Raheem Mostert at the 807, Darnell Mooney going off the board. Okay, so let me know what y'all are thinking of our team so far. Yes, it's going to be concerning with tight end, and honestly, I'm a little more worried about tight end right now than I would be in a league that we were just in or a draft that we were just in a week ago, because we could always have the backup plan going, hell, we'll just go with an Irv Smith. Hell, we'll just go with an Evan Ingram. Now we can't do that. And now those are no longer options available, which is why I was really hoping that Logan Thomas was going to make it back to us at the 804, because a lot of receivers in this range are pretty similar, where there's not that much of a difference between a Nicole Hardman, a DJ Chark, a Darnell Mooney, a Curtis Samuel, and Michael Pittman. But there's a massive difference from Logan Thomas and the rest of the tight ends that we are going to see. Yeah, so we should have gone and just probably sabotaged the draft. We should have tried to hack into the system to give us Logan Thomas to fall to the 804, but of course we really can't do too much about that. And now we are about to pass 150 likes in the live stream. We are 8 rounds into this draft. Thank you so much for everybody going down there and dropping a like on this stream. We're going to get more drafts going after this one. We're going to get a lot of drafts going tonight, my dudes. I promise you, we're going to get a lot of drafts going. Let me show the top of the draft board for anybody just now coming into the stream. So we drafted from the 109. We started Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb. Then from there, we went Terry McLaurin, Tyler Lockett at receiver. Neither receiver that I really like the value of whatsoever in a regular fantasy football draft, but this is further than when they fall, and this is a best ball league, so Tyler Lockett's a little more valuable than a league where you have to submit your starting lineup every week. Then we get a Lamar Jackson in the 5th. Sadly, we don't get Mark Andrews falling to us in the 6th round. From there, we get Damien Harris, Nicole Hardman. Damien Harris, don't love the value at the 709, but a problem is we kind of have to look at the running backs that are going to be going after, and we just have to understand that. I mean, there was a clear tier drop-off after Damien Harris, whereas, I mean, with the receivers, all these guys were going to be about in the same range as me. I mean, a Mike Williams, a Jarvis Landry, a Jalen Waddle, and Nicole Hardman. So, honestly, I didn't consider wide receiver at all at the 709. I didn't want to say it when we were on the clock because I wanted there to be a small chance that we had him to fall back to us. This pick either was going to be Logan Thomas or Damien Harris for me, just depending on how the tiers were going to break. So, yeah, I mean, I think we read that correctly, to be honest. It didn't break out in our favor, but obviously you can't always have it that way, or fantasy football would be very easy. Now, Marquez Calloway at the 903. Marquez Calloway, someone I haven't been drafting a ton. And Michael Pittman, someone that I was drafting a little bit later than this, whenever we thought that Carson Wentz was going to be out longer than he's currently projected to. But obviously, Michael Pittman has to continue to rise, considering the fact that T.Y. Hilton going to be missing an undisclosed amount of time. So yeah, Michael Pittman looks like he's just going to be getting a significant amount of targets. You also have to rise up Paris Campbell as well, and possibly Naheem Hines, to be honest. Okay, so now let's switch this back over. Jayan says, enjoy my donation. The 102 is dead. Okay, we'll go through and we'll check out what Jayan's done after this. Let's check out what Jayan has done. Okay, so Trey Lance, a lot less appealing now that he has that injury. It's going to be a lot harder for us to overcome that when we were drafting Trey Lance. Really, I'm going to be drafting one of two players here. So Noah Fant goes. I was honestly hoping that Robert Tonyan was going to go, so we got Noah Fant. But considering the injury to an Irv Smith, at this point, I think we honestly kind of have to reach on a tight end. I'm not a massive fan of a Robert Tonyan. There are actually a decent amount of other tight ends that I would probably prefer. But Robert Tonyan, I mean, with the landscape at tight end as it is, this is why I think it's even more important now to get one of those elite guys at the top of the draft. I think we kind of just have to make the reach. Of course, it would have been a lot nicer for us to end up getting Logan Thomas at 804, but that didn't happen. We all saw that. Okay, Suzuki says, hola, my man. I just signed up for Underdog Fantasy, but I don't have Twitter, Instagram. Where can I send it? Okay, just go to the description of the video, and you can actually see the link to our free fantasy football group chat. Click that link. You'll join our group chat. You don't need a credit card. You don't need an email or anything to sign up. You just choose a nickname, whatever you want to be called. And then from there, you can directly DM me. Super easy. If you want to then delete the app and not be in our fantasy football group chat, I don't care. Just make sure you shoot me that DM so I can get you that draft guide, and just shoot me that DM with the email that you signed up for Underdog Fantasy with. Okay, so now Hollywood Brown goes to the 1001. And honestly, when we take a Lamar Jackson in the 5th, this is something that we have talked about consistently. But when we take Lamar in the 5th, I cannot be drafting another quarterback for a very long time. We need to just go with another position here, even though I understand that quarterbacks look like they are the best player available according to ADP. And y'all know how much I love Trey Lance, but in Trey Lance, I'm not going to be moving him down our rankings in a weekly managed league where we have the fantasy football playoffs at the end, because that's when you were kind of drafting him for regardless. But here where we need points in week 1, week 2, week 3, Trey Lance is going to be a little less valuable. So instead, I actually think that we just look a running back, receiver, and tight end. So there are going to be a lot of running backs down in this range. And if we're going to be talking about a receiver possibly dropping off in a tier sometime soon, I actually think that what we're going to do here is try to get a guy with a high floor. In my opinion, that player's most likely going to be... Honestly, I can't do it. Let's go Rondale Moore. I was going to try to talk myself into going with the Russell Gage, given the fact that Rondale Moore, yes, does have a slightly wider range of outcomes, but at the end of the day, I think that with the Rondale Moore, he's going to be getting so many just schemed up plays for him out of the slot in that old Larry Fitzgerald role. He's going to be a lot more dynamic, a lot more explosive, that when we know we need another receiver for this best ball league where you have to start 3 wide receivers every single week, we're going to go Rondale Moore at the 10.04. I tried to convince myself to go with Russell Gage. I couldn't bring myself to it, though. Okay. So, guys, also, if you have not gone down there and subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe. We do these live drafts every single night, just past 32,000 subscribers. So thank you for everybody who is coming out here regularly to the streams. I mean, the people who are coming out regularly to the streams, y'all are the reason why we passed 32,000 subscribers. Obviously, you don't need me to tell you that. And I mean, dropping those likes just makes a massive difference and getting us recommended to some new viewers. And I want to get a $250 draft going after this. We're going to try to get a $250 draft going. I mean, obviously, we're going to need a decent amount of people in here if we're going to fill that league, but I think we can do it. We're also going to get another $10 draft going tonight. We're going to get a decent amount of drafts. I promise you that, my dudes. We're going to get a decent amount of drafts in here. Okay, Noah says, can you look at my team at 12? Yeah, let's go through and let's check out Noah's team real quick. So if we're looking at Noah's team, he's drafting at 12. He takes Eckler in the first. Then he goes with a Deandre Swift in the third. Now, it's intriguing to take Deandre Swift in the third because if we're looking at the wide receiver tiers, would you prefer a Jonathan Taylor and a player like DJ Moore, or would you prefer Calvin Ridley and Deandre Swift? I don't necessarily know if there's a clear answer to that question. Of course, it's going to be harder to draft Deandre Swift now with the groin injury and his just availability being in question for week 1. Now, beyond this, you have Mark Andrews in the 5th. I love getting one of those tight ends here, given the fact that it's going to be a lot harder to find those other tight ends later on in the draft. I think you have to kind of draft Mark Andrews. Then you get Jamar Chase, Mike Williams, Jarvis Landry. Finally, with all those values, you get Tom Brady to stack with the Mike Evans. Then from there, you also get Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown would have been someone I would have drafted over Rondale Moore. So I like the draft overall. I can't give you a solid answer on what I would have done in terms of drafting DeAndre Swift just because we don't have the fantasy football playoffs in this format. I think you do have to make some adjustments in prioritizing guys that can produce right away. And I guess we may actually go back on our word. I guess we may end up drafting a quarterback in this range. I don't love the idea, but I mean, we're going to be looking at like 15 picks behind for Matthew Stafford, 15 picks behind his ADP. A different bye week than Lamar Jackson. There's only going to be one player that I think we would go off the board for. Like we would scroll down a decent amount of ADP. So let's see if Sir Dilly decides to take Mike Gesicki. That's actually going to be my player here. And he goes Mike Gesicki. Of course he goes Mike Gesicki. Okay, so we can no longer take Irv Smith Jr. So I guess if we're going through and we're mapping this out, with quarterbacks, I think you do have... Well, the thing is, every team between us has a quarterback. So I think you have a tier of 4 guys here that we're kind of fine seeing go in whatever order. So instead, we're probably going to bring in a Devin Singletary. Just given the fact that we have a Lamar Jackson, I don't think it's that important to bring in another guy. I mean, it would have been very nice to have Mike Gesicki falling to us. So you do have Matthew Stafford going directly after. Obviously, that is massive value on a Matthew Stafford. Now, Burgundy Bets coming out with a donation. Thank you, my man says. And he says, Mason, what is the payout for the $250 draft? So the payout, Underdog actually pays out first, second, and third for the 12-man league that you're in. And then also there's a money set aside for the tournament at the very end where if you get first or second in that 12-man league that we're going to be doing after this, then you actually get entered into a public tournament with like $100,000 on top for first, like $50,000 on top for second. And the reason why I'm continuing to go out and trying to get those $250 drafts in is it looks like the overall contest may not fill, which doesn't mean there's going to be less money at the top. What that means is Underdog may have to pump some of their own money into the contest to guarantee those prizes. And then you're going to be going up against less people in the overall public tournament at the end. So I'm probably going to be trying to fire off a decent amount of those teams. Now, of course, I can't say for sure that the contest isn't going to fill because we do have about 9 days left, but I've been trying to get in as many teams as I can there, to be honest. Okay, so now we have Matt Ryan. Okay, so we have a decent amount of these quarterbacks going off the board. And we honestly don't even have any stacks. Like if we would have drafted like a Robert Woods or something, if he would have fallen to us in the 3rd round, there we would have taken Matthew Stafford, no question. But I think we just kind of had to, quote unquote, reach on a Devin Singletary at the 11:09. We have Gabriel Davis at the 12:02. Okay. So Sticky Kush has, we actually got him a podcast breakdown on Patreon today as well for a recent 2021 fantasy football team. He sniped us on Logan Thomas. Okay, so this sucks, my man. I wish I could take that podcast back. But now we are on the clock, and it really comes down to 2 guys. Y'all know Justin Fields. To be honest, I've been drafting him in very few leagues. I think taking him over a Joe Burrow is very aggressive. We don't have any of the stacks, and we also have Lamar Jackson already. So it's going to be hard to take a Burrow here. What we may do instead is, considering the injuries to the tight end position, we're probably going to take a Jonnu Smith. It's hard to be confident in this selection, but we're going to go Jonnu Smith at the 12:04. And then here we're then afterwards just most likely going to be probably done at tight end. We're going to be done at tight end. We're not going to have to draft another quarterback for a very long time. We have a donation coming out from Steven. He says, "It is all your fault that I'm in over 50 underdog drafts. I'm depending you were right and I get a decent ROI." My man, I'm happy that you are enjoying underdog fantasy. I will say I'm addicted. Like literally, I made 20 podcasts for Patreon earlier today. And all I was doing throughout those entire podcasts, of course, while we were breaking down teams, is I was just in an underdog draft constantly. I mean, I don't even know how many underdog drafts I did today. And we are, of course, going to get more going on the live stream tonight. So yes, I try to live stream as many drafts as I can, but obviously I can't live stream and record podcasts at the same time. So, I mean, I'll try to live stream as many of these drafts that I do every single night for y'all. Okay. So now let's switch this back over. Okay, so you have Gerald Everett going at the 12:07. Joe Burrow falls to the 12:08. That's fantastic value with a Joe Burrow. And Jay in here is saying that his team is dead at the 1:02. So at running back, he has Dalvin Cook, Zach Moss, Sony Michel, Jamal Williams. At receiver, he has Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, Odell Beckham Jr., Deebo Samuel, Corey Davis, Brandon Cooks. So honestly, I'm kind of fine with this team. Yeah, I know that you auto-pick Kyle Pitts. I know that you lost your connection for that. And obviously, it would have been really nice to instead of possibly just get a Miles Sanders and Tyler Higbee compared to Kyle Pitts and Zach Moss. Still, I think that's not bad whatsoever. My Lord. Do y'all see this? It looks like someone may think we're in a dynasty draft. Let's go through. Let's check out this team. Okay. I'm assuming they know we're not in a dynasty draft because they go with Devontae Adams at the 104 and Joe Mixon at the 205, which you wouldn't do in dynasty. Was this a misclick? What? Cam Akers at the 1209? That's the first time I've ever seen that in one of these live streams. I'm just going to assume that's a punt. I'm assuming that we're just getting this free $10 added to the league pot. Thank you for making that donation to the league pot for everybody in it. Because, my God, just completely punting your round 12 pick. That is brutal. That is brutal. Okay. Okay, Andrew says, Mace, you got to have to come up with some new video titles. Next thing you'll know, you'll have a draft of death or season-winning running back that is owned in 1.7% of leagues. We have to come up with some new stuff. We have to come. If you have any ideas, my man, hit my DMs. If you have any ideas, you want to be a part of the creative department at the Flock Network, I'd be very happy to hear what you have in store. Okay, Master just going rogue here. He's going rogue. I guess he's making a $10 deposit. Guys, like I said, these aren't mock drafts. These are real money fantasy drafts. We're going to get a $250 draft going after this. And if we have someone who wants to come out, obviously, that's not going to happen. Obviously, nobody's going to punt away $250. I guess they can in a $10 draft, and it doesn't matter that much. At the end of the day, I'm not punting away $10. That's a solid dinner for me. So I think that's kind of crazy to go and just make those two decisions. But outside of that, let's ignore these two picks. Let's try to move on. And now you have AJ Green, Randall Cobb going. So now with our next few selections, I think that we're actually, oh my God, do we have to consider Justin Fields? One of y'all, please take Justin Fields or I'm going to have to take him. Someone take Justin Fields and just allow me to not have to make that decision. Justin Fields is currently falling. If he falls to us, it'll be 30 picks behind ADP. Okay, so I believe, yeah, Justin Fields just goes off the board. Now we're going to be in a spot where we can go in a couple different directions. Obviously, Rashad Bateman, a little less important here when we don't have the fantasy football playoffs. I think that we're actually going to be, quote unquote, reaching on our next player. So Marquez Valdes-Scantling goes. So I think with the recent injury to a T.Y. Hilton, we're actually going to be reaching on a Paris Campbell. So yeah, let's bring in Paris Campbell. I think that's a solid pick at the 1309 when T.Y. Hilton's going to be missing an undisclosed amount of time. Now it looks like Paris Campbell's going to be close to an every down player for the Indianapolis Colts. So yeah, that's an easy decision for me. Let's bring in Paris Campbell there at the 1309. O'Connor says, any more $10 drafts for Patreon members? We're going to start every single live stream for the, just say until the season starts, with a $10 link out there over on Patreon. We're going to start every single live stream with a $10 link on Patreon. From then, I'm sending it out in the live chat so other people can get a shot to get in the league, because obviously it is massive if anybody decides to support the show on Patreon, and I appreciate everybody that is doing so and allowing me to just focus in 100% of my attention on fantasy football. But at the same time, I know that a lot of people aren't in the positions where they can support the show on Patreon, and they're still supporting the channel by just hanging out in the live chat using promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. So yeah, I want to go through and I want to get some news out for them. Get some drafts out for them. Okay, so the Villa says, breaking news, Odell Beckham Jr. out to 5 to 6 weeks. I'm assuming that this is a troll job, but we'll look it up on Twitter. Regardless, no skin off my back. We just looked this up in 1 second. Then we're going to have some people going, we got you. Okay, so let's look up Odell Beckham. Yeah, I'm assuming that this is not true whatsoever. Yeah, that's not true. Odell Beckham Jr. is completely fine. Okay, so now we have J.D. McKissick going at the 1401. Tua Tagovailoa at the 1402. Now let's switch this back over. At some point, do we consider a quarterback? So we're most likely going to want to make this build 2 QBs, 6 running backs, and 8 wide receivers. Receiver is definitely very thin at this point. But quarterbacks, we're going to have access to a lot of guys later on in the draft. Where I think actually we probably go with Tyrell Williams here. Now that Rashad Perriman's cut, I think that Tyrell Williams is just going to have such a large role on that team where he's going to be getting a ton of routes run. He's going to be getting a ton of targets. So it's a very boring selection. Probably the most boring pick of the draft, to be honest. But we're going to go Tyrell Williams at the 1304. Okay. Burgundy says, Mason, is the $250 league going to fill, or should we do a buck? My man, we will try to do a $250 draft. If it doesn't fill in like 3 minutes, I'm not going to wait around and I'm just going to bounce. But what I'll probably do is once we get into round like 15 of this draft, I'll switch over and I'll probably go hop into $250 lobby just so we can make sure that we have a decent shot to get in. Rob Gronkowski at the 1406. And I know a lot of people probably don't go this deep with their fantasy drafts, but I think that it's very important to go this deep and really have a good understanding of the players that you're going to be looking at the waiver wire and everything are. So yeah, now you have Cole Kmet, Hunter Henry. So if we're seeing like Hunter Henry go off in this range, was it a mistake for me to go with a Jonnu Smith at the 1204 and then a Tyrell Williams in the 14th? Like, what's the real difference between a Jonnu Smith and these tight ends right here? I understand that there is a difference. I don't necessarily know how large it is, however. So maybe it would have been better off to just go with a receiver like a Traquan Smith or a Sterling Shepard. And actually, no, I like what we did. I like Jonnu and Tyrell Williams. Trying to critique it, but I honestly think it's completely fine. Okay. Jane says, duty calls. Got to go help my dad. I have her on autopilot with a ton of cute players deep. Okay, my man. Thank you for coming out to the stream. I hope all goes well tonight, my dude. Okay, so now you have Christian Kirk at the 1412. Okay, so Jayan says he queued up a bunch of players and he's going to have an auto from here on out. He goes Baker Mayfield at the 1502. So he goes 2 quarterbacks here with Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield as his first 2 guys. Now, Evan says, thoughts on Cook's injury / risk / Kamara at number 2 in a PPR format. I will say, I think the injury risk that you actually have with the Dalvin Cook is a little overblown, to be completely honest. Now, trust me, I understand how lengthy it is, even going back to college, but he showed us that he can handle a full-on workload last year. And I've said this time and time and time again, but using previous injury concerns to try to predict future injuries is a losing man's game more times than not. So I really hate the idea of just going through and trying to go, okay, well, this player's got hurt in the past, he's going to get hurt again in the future. Really, if you're trying to do that consistently, you're going to be wrong more times than you're right. So I don't love doing that. I hate just going out here and saying, this player's a risk, this player isn't. But let's switch back over. Let's try to get back in the mindset of the guys we're going to be looking at here. T.Y. Hilton goes to the 1508, not considering T.Y. with the injury. So we are going to be just probably taking Damien Williams here, to be honest, as our running back 5, unless I'm missing something. Did news break with Damien Williams, and that's why he's dropping so far down ADP? I mean, we kind of need another running back here, so let's go Damien Williams. There's this tier quarter. Honestly, throw Sam Darnold into this tier, he's about the same. Throw Derek Carr into that tier, they're about the same. And all of these teams between us have either 2 or 3 QBs, so I'm not too worried about that many of those players going. Well, I'll just take whoever makes it back to us, where obviously it looks like Damien Williams, according to ADP, is about the last running back in that tier. Okay. So now Deshawn Jackson goes to the 15-10. Continue to see these wide receivers go up the board. I mean, wide receiver gets very thin sooner rather than later. And you're going to see that in the $250 draft that we may do after this. You're going to see exactly how thin receiver gets really quickly. Now Van Jefferson goes to the 15-11. Honestly, neither one of these receivers I'm that excited to draft. If they did not draft Tutu Atwell this NFL draft in the second round, now trust me, I understand Tutu Atwell. He weighs less than I do. Tutu Atwell is a very small human, but they did draft him in the second round. He does have speed. What that tells us is it tells us he's most likely going to be seeing a significant amount of routes in his offense. So I probably would rather just punt Deshawn Jackson and Van Jefferson, because Van Jefferson, he was literally he's older than Juju Smith-Schuster. And he was drafted in the NFL draft last year. The only reason he was drafted last year was because he was supposed to be some polished route runner. He comes out, really doesn't do anything whatsoever. So yeah, I mean, Van Jefferson, not a massive fan. I'm going to make a selection here, then we will scroll up on the draft board. And a very easy pick here when we have Terry McLaurin on this team. I think that just getting Ryan Fitzmagic is going to make a lot of sense. We're getting him 20 picks behind his ADP. I know a lot of people probably wanted us to go with him in the last round, but a big thing is you just have to look at the teams that are going to be picking between your next 2 picks, and it really gives you a good idea of how the draft board's going to go. So we kind of figured we could get Ryan Fitzpatrick falling to us in the 16th. That is exactly what happens. Let's show off this draft board for anybody just now coming into the live stream. And if you are just now coming into the live stream, make sure you go down there and drop a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel. You know, nobody else is live streaming like this. Real money fantasy football drafts every single night. We're going to try to get in a $250 league. This will be like the 3rd night in a row we got in a $250 draft. So all I have to say for that is thank you to everybody over there supporting the show on Patreon. Thank you for everybody funding this. Okay. So now Ben Roethlisberger goes at the 1607. I'm probably going to go actually hop in the $250 lobby real quick to see how many teams are in there waiting. So if you are just now joining this live stream and you want to know how to draft with us on Underdog Fantasy, so make sure you go to Underdog Fantasy. You will find a link in the description. You'll find a link in the live chat. Sign up with promo code FLOCK. When you sign up with promo code FLOCK to Underdog Fantasy and make a $10 deposit, you actually get $25 added to your account. And on top of this, you also get our 2021 Fantasy Football Draft Guide, our 2021 rankings. Our 2021 rankings and tiers are going to be updated all the way to the start of the season. So make sure you take advantage. It helps out the channel a ton. I mean, you're getting hundreds of pages of information. You're getting our rankings and tiers. So make sure you go out there and do it. And we just hopped into the $250 lobby. So guys, y'all know usually on Underdog, if y'all want to get in a draft with us, I will send out a link to the private league in the live chat. But since this is a $250 draft, the reason we're doing this is I think Underdog is going to have an overlay on this contest where they're most likely going to have to be matching those guaranteed prizes and just pumping a little more money compared to the amount of entry fees that there are. Of course, I can't say that's for sure happening. We're 9 days away from the contest. I don't know 100% that Underdog is going to be pumping more money into this. But based on simple math, based on seeing how fast it's going to fill, I actually think there's a chance that that does happen. So we are going to be wanting to fire off some teams in the public Underdog tournament. So if you want in our next draft, this is a $250 draft. I recommend, if you are new to Underdog Fantasy, do not join this draft with us. If you are new to Underdog Fantasy, the worst thing that you could do is go and hop into a $250 draft right away. Go hop in a $5, go hop in a $3 draft. Get used to the flow, get used to the 30-second clock and how you're going to see the draft board go, because obviously getting into a $250 league is going to be brutal. But if you do want to get into this one with us, and this is going to be on the live stream, all you have to do is go to Underdog Fantasy, go in the description of the video. There'll be a link there. Go in the live chat and then go click that. And then we'll be in the $250 lobby. So go to the big dog. It's the $250 buy-in. Enter and you'll see Fantasy Flock in there. And we'll get this going. There's 6 spots left right now. I'm not going to show that on the live stream. We'll show that a little later on. But let's switch this back over. And see, this is why also we wanted to wait on QB, because these quarterbacks just fall a decent amount. Okay, so now, obviously, we're not going to be considering going with another QB whenever we do have both Lamar Jackson and Ryan Fitzpatrick. We're going to be wanting one more receiver and one more running back on this team. So if we're going to go with the receiver, we may actually end up just taking an Allen Lazard, considering you do have the injury to Devin Funchess. And maybe Allen Lazard actually gets a slight bump up. So let's take Lazard at the 1107. And then from here, we're probably just going to go through and take a running back. Our running back so far, Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb, Damien Harris, Devin Singletary, and Damien Williams. So let's get another running back coming in. Not too excited about any of these players in particular. Now, I will say if we were playing in a large field tournament, a Justice Hill would be intriguing, considering the fact that Justice Hill is owned in very few of those teams. So in the $250 draft, don't be surprised if I take a Justice Hill in the last round. But here, it's a little less appealing, just going, okay, well, I mean, it's only a 12-man league. We don't have the tournament at the very end because this is only a 12-man draft. Okay, so we still have 6 spots in that $250 draft open. So if you want to go in, we have 6 spots available. That's going to be directly after this draft. We are in the 18th round here, so hopefully we don't have to wait around too long. I'm just assuming, since there are only 6 spots available in that big dog draft, that it will probably go pretty fast. Now we have Kadarius Toney, Dwayne Eskridge, Nico Collins. Darrington Evans goes to the 1803. So y'all know Darrington Evans, someone that I am consistently drafting. Do we just go with the Tony Jones? I know a lot of people have been just pushing up Tony Jones in this. Oh my gosh, this is close. I'm not a fan of either one of these running backs. We more so have to be going with the running back, to be honest. We're just going to go with Kenneth Gainwell. It's whatever. It's whatever. Kenneth Gainwell is someone that could have a small role on the team. Small role. And obviously, if anything were to occur to Miles Sanders, that role would expand. And the thing is, I don't necessarily know what role we would actually be looking at, even with an Alvin Kamara injury for Tony Jones in New Orleans. So yeah, let me know what y'all think about that. Let me know if y'all think it's a punt just going with Kenneth Gainwell in the 18th round. Justice Hill, if we knew that the Baltimore Ravens were not bringing in another running back, Justice Hill would easily be the pick here. But I think there's a damn good chance that Baltimore ends up bringing in a running back like Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell. Obviously, there are a couple different names anybody can float out there. Okay, so now we have Eric Hebron. Let me show the entire draft board off for anybody just now coming into the stream. And guys, if you're just now coming into the stream, we were getting a $250 draft going. Make sure you drop a like on the stream. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We live stream real money fantasy drafts every single night. And we are going to be doing so until we get to the beginning of the season. So make sure you subscribe. And Lank Dog says, good luck in the 250, 101, 101, 101. Well, yes, sir. You guys, this is what we need. This is what we need. The 101 in the $250 draft. Like I said, I did not throw a fit whatsoever when in this $10 warm-up draft, they gave us the 109. It's a $10 warm-up draft. Who the hell cares if we're about to be in a $250 league? I mean, literally a $250 league is 25 times this draft. It's like doing 25 of these drafts just in that one league. So now this is when we want the 101. This is when we want the 102. I won't be that greedy. You give us the 102, I'm completely fine. But we need something here. So let's go through, and I will switch this back over so y'all can see how many spots we have available. There are currently 5 spots open in this $250 draft. So we may have to wait a couple minutes. I can go through. I can answer some questions in the live chat currently. So let me go and pull this up just so y'all can see exactly how many spots are going to be available in this league. Yeah. So there are 5 spots. So y'all can see as this fills. Actually, I mean, it's going to take a couple minutes. So let me go through. Let me read the live chat. If you have a fantasy football question, Now is the time to send this out. Now is the time to send your question out as we wait for this $250 draft to fill. And keep in mind, guys, we are sitting in the $250 lobby on Underdog Fantasy. If you think you are a better fantasy football drafter than I am, come out. Let's see it. It's a $250 league. I'm out here posting every single night in real money, high stakes fantasy football drafts. So if you think you are a significantly better drafter, I encourage you, come out, show exactly what you have on the live stream. And if you use promo code FLOCK to sign up for Underdog Fantasy, which is where we draft every single night, that's where I draft during the day as well, you actually get a $25 deposit when you use promo code FLOCK and make a $10 deposit. You actually also get our 2021 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. You get our 2021 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. Those are hundreds of pages of information that we could be selling for $80, $90, $100. And then you get our 2021 rankings, our 2021 tiers, all of which are going to be updated to the beginning part of the season. So if y'all like these streams, if y'all enjoy this channel, I promise you there's no better way to support us out than going over there and making that deposit on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK. You can find the link in the live chat, find it in the description of the video. And now we have one more person hopping in here. So we have 4 spots available. And Noah says Ravens announced Tyson Williams as the running back 2 today. Okay, so when you say the Ravens announced that, actually, how impactful is that going to be? I mean, I will say that I'm just assuming that this is going to be a spot where they bring in another running back. I'm assuming they're bringing in another running back. Okay. I'm going through and trying to find information on this. I really can't. Okay, so Tyson Williams. Okay, so I see that they listed him on the depth chart ahead of Justice Hill. I just really think they're bringing someone in. I really think there's a small chance that they're actually just going into that team. Just like what we said with Daryl Henderson. Y'all remember when people were drafting Daryl Henderson at the beginning of the 4th, I said, don't do that. I said instead, know that they're going to bring someone in, whether that's through trade or whether they go out there and sign someone. We said that we were hoping they go and sign someone, but there was always a chance that they went out there and made a trade for a veteran. And that's why we were ranking Daryl Henderson lower than consensus. And that's exactly what happened. And I think that with Baltimore, they're not going to go out there and trade for someone because the reason we identified, Los Angeles as a key candidate that could go out there and make that trade is because the injury to Cam Akers happened way before the preseason. And on top of this, we have seen the Los Angeles Rams time and time again have just the tendency to go and be willing to make those type of deals. So I think it's a little less likely with the Baltimore Ravens, but I still think they could go out there and sign someone. And we actually have 3 spots left. 3 spots left in this $250 draft. For anybody wanting to join, guys, we are currently sitting in the big dog lobby on Underdog Fantasy. The majority of the times y'all are going to join our drafts on Underdog Fantasy, I'm going to send out a private link in the live chat. However, this is a league that has a ton of money at the very top in terms of a tournament at the end of the season for the first and second finishers in our 12-man contest that we're about to be drafting. So because of that, we can't set up a private league. Instead, it's going to be a public league. I'd imagine that we're actually going to be drafting against a couple people that are not watching the live stream right now, which honestly, I kind of prefer. I kind of prefer to draft against people that don't think my exact way. So just make sure you go to the lobby on Underdog Fantasy. Go to Underdog Fantasy. You'll see the Big Dog Contest. That's the $250 buy-in. Join that. That's exactly where we're waiting. We got 3 spots left. Okay. So let's go through. And Matthew says the math is for $525,000 distribution. 2,100 people need to enter, and the rest is profit. Okay, so I'll say, yeah, and it looks like right now how many people have entered on Underdog Fantasy. Let's go through and look. It looks like not nearly that many people have entered. 1.1 thousand people have entered this contest on Underdog Fantasy. And there have been, I think these drafts have been going for like, I don't want to say a month, but I probably shouldn't say anything at all. Let me see if there's, yeah, it closes on the 9th at 6:20 p.m. It closes on the 9th at 6:20 p.m. Okay, so Jericho says, how did the price? Okay, so we only have 2 spots left in this draft. It looks like this draft is getting going sometime soon. I'm sorry for the wait, my dudes. But, I mean, when we only have 2 spots left in this lobby to go through and draft, if it's going to be a $250 league, I think the pressure is on to the point where it makes the live stream so much better. And I really have to sit here and I really have to think about the selections that we're making. And it It makes for an entertaining live stream. I just can't sit here and go, okay, well, I guess we'll take best player available. We want a wide receiver here. No, I have to go through and I have to go, okay, well, I have Keenan Allen ranked higher than CeeDee Lamb in my rankings. Are we really that confident that we shouldn't go that direction? So, I mean, we were able to go through and make some more aggressive moves. Okay. So Cam says, Mason will a team pick up Rashad Perriman. For the teams that I've drafted Rashad Perriman on Underdog Fantasy, I'm hoping so. Okay, we only have one spot left in this draft, so I'm going to imagine this is going to fill any second now. So my dudes, what I need from you, listen closely. This is a $250 draft right now. This is not your mama's draft. No, this is a real money fantasy football draft. We entered into 2 of these last night. So y'all are seeing exactly how confident I am in what we can do this season. But what I need from y'all, because I'm not confident if we're drafting at the 110, not confident if we're drafting at the 111, not confident if we're drafting at the 108. So what I need from y'all is go down there, drop a like on the live stream, send some positive vibes in this direction. We want the 101. We need the 101. I'll settle for the 102 and nothing below that. Underdog Fantasy, if you're listening right now, hack the system. Break into the algorithm. Do whatever you can. Get us the 101 here. We haven't gotten the one. Okay, here we are. Let's go. This is full. I blame that on y'all. That is your fault right here. We were sitting here and almost 600 people in the live stream, not even 300 likes on the live stream. That is y'all's fault. Okay? You listen closely. I just lit $250 on fire. I'm just kidding. Of course, we didn't light $250 on fire. I actually like the 106 for one reason and one reason only right now. I'm not going to be able to talk too much about my strategy right now because obviously in a $250 draft, I can't have people coming out here and sniping us. But we can go through and we can look at the regulars to this stream. And this is going to be a tough draft, guys. We have seen time and time again, this guy is a crusher. He comes out to every single one of these $250 drafts. I don't think we've done a single $250 draft where he hasn't been sitting in there in the lobby. And his teams are pretty damn good 99% of the time, 100% of the time, to be honest. I'm saying 99% of the time because I'm hoping the team that he's about to draft right now is not going to be that good. Deezonator's also another crusher, someone that's always out here in the live stream, someone that's always out here in the drafts. He is a crusher as well. And it sucks that we have these guys somewhat close to us. Like, I wish that we were sitting over here at like the 102 and they were at the 110, 111. It is tough going up against these two players. And Alvin Kamara at the 101 in a $250 draft. Dear Lord. This doesn't accomplish anything either. You're not creating that unique of a team when you can. There are going to be a lot of teams that have Kamara at the 102, 103. Oh my Lord. This has to be a punt. Maybe this is like level. And I will say, guys, if y'all are new to a $250 draft when we do these on the live stream, I am always willing to give the benefit of the doubt to these drafters out here that they're doing something right that I don't know about. I am always willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that I'm the idiot in the room because they're going in here and they're drafting in a $250 league as well. So now this is why I honestly was excited about the 106. So you all know I've been saying this where the teams that we've been taking to Travis Kelce, I haven't necessarily liked the team builds, but now that we have the tight end landscape changing, I'm going to be more excited about taking a Travis Kelce. I have found that it's very hard to create a Kelce build that we're excited about. But now I just think what we're going to be finding at the tight end position later on in the draft, Travis Kelce in the first round, when we only have to take one other tight end in the rest of the draft, and we can just get someone at the very end. We can get a Pat Frymuth in the last round. We can go and we can get Kelce in the first. But going back to what I was saying with Kamara at the 101, you're going to find that when we're in these $250 big dog drafts, guys, I'm operating under the assumption that I'm the idiot in the room, that I have no idea what I'm doing. So when we sit there and I go, okay, well, maybe he's doing it to try to create a unique build. Maybe he's doing it because he knows something that I don't. In reality, I don't think it's a unique build. I don't see what the process is because there are going to be a lot of other teams in this same exact range of the draft that have Alvin Kamara. So you're going to be overlapping on a lot of the same players. So even if you want a unique team in the overall contest, I don't think you accomplish it. I think you take CMC here. I think there's no other explanation. Unless you are from the future. Unless this guy is from the future and he knows something happens that we don't. Okay. So now we actually have Jeff coming out with the donation. Thank you, my dude. Jeff coming out and saying 1 through 3 full PPR rate Keenan Allen, AJ Brown, and Justin Jefferson. Okay, so here I'd actually go AJ Brown, then Justin Jefferson, then Keenan Allen, my dude. Okay, but now we have in this draft, very standard from here on out. Haven't necessarily seen anything too crazy. I guess Ezekiel Elliott falling to the 109 very rarely happens. Cognition was actually in our draft the other night. I believe he was in one of the $250 drafts last night. And I believe what he actually did is went running back, running back, running back, running back, and then drafted like 20 wide receivers after that. I mean, just went full on receiver. Going to be interested to see if he does something similar here. I mean, I'd imagine when you get Ezekiel Elliott falling to you at the 109, you have to be pretty damn excited about that, to be completely honest. So yeah, I mean, obviously you're excited about getting Zeke at the 109 in a $250 league. I wonder if he goes through with that same strategy, because you're kind of set up to at this point when you get a DK Metcalf at the 109. Okay, Derek says, I wasn't expecting to get him at 2. Lucky me. Okay, so Derek is in here in this draft at the 102 and he gets Christian McCaffrey. I mean, the 102 and the 103, they need to be sending DFS Viper like a gift basket. They need to be going through, getting him some ripe looking bananas, getting him a pretty bouquet, and just shipping that over right now for in a $250 draft, giving them some gifts right here at the 102, 103. Now we have Gibson, Najee Harris going off the board. Now back up on the clock. I think that we literally just go with the highest player according to AP out of these three. It's whatever. It's whatever. I mean, obviously we know that drafters are going to favor the wide receiver here. So I'm kind of wanting to see if a DK Metcalf will fall to us. A Darren Waller goes to the 206. So this is what you love to see if you have a Kelsey build. Hopefully we see the rest of the draft follow going. The tight end landscape has changed. We need to be making adjustments. I know so many people are about to hate our draft. I know so many people are going to see us draft seven wide receivers in a row here and go, Mason, you idiot. Mason, you have no idea what you're doing. Mason, why did you just waste $250? Where, guys, trust me on this. We have done enough of these $250 drafts where I'm kind of confident with how we are going to see the draft board fall by now. So let's go out of our way. Let's take a DK Metcalf here at the 207. Nick Chubb goes to the 208. I mean, you have to be excited if you get Adams in the first, get Nick Chubb falling to you at the 208. A big thing is, I mean, when we don't start our draft off with a receiver in the first round, I think that we honestly kind of have to just follow it up with the DK Metcalf. When we get Metcalf in the second, and we can potentially be looking at a Russell Wilson in the 7th, 8th round, I mean, I think Metcalf is going to be the selection there. Now, Joe Mixon goes at the 209. And y'all know, y'all actually saw me take a Nick Chubb earlier in tonight's live stream. I believe I took Nick Chubb at like the 204, definitely ahead of DK Metcalf. But in these $250 drafts, guys, these high-stakes drafters, they draft differently. They draft differently. Trust me on this one. You have to start 3 wide receivers in this league. It's best ball at the same time. We have to be making adjustments. We know how the $250 drafters are going to operate. So for that reason, we're taking a DK Metcalf at the 207. I know a lot of people are going to hate it, but we're going to do it. And yeah, thank God we get Terry McLaurin going at the 301. Did not want to have to consider Terry McLaurin previously. And this is what I'm kind of talking about. Even if you're trying to create a unique build, you're not accomplishing it with an Alvin Kamara, because you can get just Kamara, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin at the 103. I mean, it's like the same exact thing. You just punt the 101 advantage. Now, CeeDee Lamb, George Kittle. Okay, George Kittle at the 303. We want to see those tight ends going. We want to see those tight ends going after we take a Travis Kelce. And dear Lord, I did not mean to do that, my dudes. Okay, thank God. I thought we were about to shut down the live stream. Okay, so maybe we go out of our way. Get something going here. Burgundy Bets goes Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Okay, I thought we were going to end up drafting CEH and kind of go for a Kansas City Chiefs stack and possibly get him a Mahomes in the 4th round. That's not going to be on the table now. Now we are just going to go exactly with what we thought. We're going to go with a receiver in the 3rd round. It's going to be down between, well, it's going to be Amari Cooper. Now it's going to be down between Allen Robinson or Amari Cooper, whoever fell. Now we're going to bring in Amari. And yeah, we do not have a running back so far in this build. And I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. I promise you we're finding value later on. I promise you we're finding value later on. Trust me on this wide receiver heavy structure. Okay, so now Robert Woods at the 307. I'd imagine that you see a lot of receivers going off in this range. And then you get probably a Deandre Swift going in the beginning of the 4th round. And guys, this is a $250 draft. We do real money fantasy football drafts every single night. Make sure y'all go down there and drop a like on the live stream. Subscribe to the channel. Nobody else is doing anything like this. Now, Kyle Pitts goes at the 309. Dear Lord, dear Lord, dear Lord. Thank you. Thank you for letting Kyle Pitts go. Let's get this tight end run going. Let's happen. Let's go. Okay, so now Mike Evans at the 310, a little bit of a wide receiver heavy build. This is what we've seen Dome Favors do. Dome Favors, like you see the highly experienced draft here. That means he's done like over 1,000 drafts so far on Underdog Fantasy. And he's going wide receiver heavy. He goes Tyreek, DeAndre Hopkins, and Mike Evans to start this draft off. Now T. Higgins goes at the 311. Tyler Lockett. DJ Moore. Foul says, why take Amari Cooper when you have Robert Woods ranked higher? A couple different reasonings here. A, we have to understand that I can't necessarily just draft off my rankings when we're going to be drafting in 250 fantasy drafts this season. I mean, if I'm going to be in 250 drafts, right, and I'm going through and I'm drafting off my rankings every single time, then what we're going to find is if I have Robert Woods ranked ahead of Amari Cooper and Amari Cooper's ahead of Robert Woods in ADP, all of a sudden I'm going to have Amari Cooper in about 40% of my drafts, where I'm going to have Robert Woods in about 5%, where we don't necessarily, obviously flip that back. But we can't go overboard with our exposures. So we have to be balancing that out slightly as we go through with these drafts. So instead, just understanding that we want to be capping our exposures of certain players at about 20%. That way, when I have 40% Cam Akers in Dynasty and he tears his Achilles and I'm like, well, like crap. Now we have a massive hurdle to overcome just to be profitable this season. Then we go out and we draft. Y'all know how high I was on Travis Etienne. And then we go and we cap ourselves with Travis Etienne at about 20%, and he goes and he just out for the season. We're still going to be able to make up for it. And actually, I know a lot of people are going to hate seeing this. We're going to go Julio Jones as a wide receiver 3. But anyway, I know I'm kind of all over the board. Keep in mind, we're in a $250 draft, guys, right now. So I'm trying to give you all my thought process, and at the same time, we have some real pressure with these picks. So essentially, the thought process is I have to cap my exposures when I'm investing this much money into fantasy drafts, where I don't necessarily want to have over 20% of any given player. I'd like to cap it at about 18 to 19% for the guys that I'm very high on. So we have to go through and we have to really consider ADP at the same time. Now, DeAndre Swift does go at the 408. And I promise you we're getting running backs that we like later on. But Patrick Mahomes goes at the 409. So this is something that I have struggled with time and time again. And I talked about this a lot in the live draft last night, is when you take Kelsey in the first, obviously Mahomes in the fourth looks like massive value. So you can go through and you can complete that stack. And I know a lot of people are going to say, Mason, you're so stupid. Mason, you have no idea what you're doing. How many $250 drafts have y'all been in this offseason? Because I'll tell you, I've been in a lot. I think that we're confident in knowing how this draft board's going to fall. So before you say that I'm stupid, before you come out and just completely roast me, let's at least wait until round 13 and let's see what the next 6 rounds look like. Let's see what the next 8 rounds look like and see exactly what happens to the receiver position later on in this draft. Because now you have guys like Odell Beckham Jr. going at the 501. Odell Beckham Jr. going at the 501. There's a massive tier gap between Julio Jones and Odell Beckham Jr. for me. This is a league where you have to start 3 wide receivers every single week. So yeah, we're going to go with Julio Jones at the 407. Now Derek decides to take Miles Sanders at the 502. Now let's switch this back around. Okay, so all these teams right here, we have a lot of teams loading up on one running back. We are the only team so far in this draft that is yet to draft a running back. Now if we're going to be switching this back over, obviously Jamar Chase is the follower of the past 3 weeks. I mean, Jamar Chase, someone I did not like going in to the preseason. And of course, we're not necessarily a massive fan of Jamar Chase now with all the concerns that he has circling him. I guess now let's look up. Now, Daryl Henderson also, Henderson was someone that I was saying they were bringing someone in. We did not want to be drafting Daryl Henderson in the 4th round. In the 5th round, even with him falling, I don't necessarily think that we love this value. So I'm not going to say exactly what we're doing, of course, because we have to kind of keep that at least a little under wraps. But you have Mark Andrews going at the 504. So, I mean, I'm not going to be considering a tight end here, to be completely honest. I think it's going to be very reckless to go out there and do so. Okay, so here's my thought process. we're going to take a Josh Allen. And by taking a Josh Allen here, we are going to allow ourselves to only have to draft one quarterback and one tight end. And then we're going to be able to draft 6 running backs on this team and 10 receivers. This is going to be the perfect roster construction for this format. Yeah, we're going to take Josh Allen at the 506. I know we do not have Stephon Diggs. And previously, we were saying that we only wanted to be drafting the elite quarterbacks in this round if we had one of their stacks earlier on. But I actually think, based on the fact that we have seen just every 5th round pick kind of get shaken up, where at this point, it looks like no player is standing out further than the rest, I think now we have to consider our roster construction and what we do here with the 5th round. And just taking a Josh Allen, he's going to be a little more appealing, knowing that we can go through and we can find guys like a Gabriel Davis later on. Daryl Henderson, I have to be pushing him down our draft board. I'm not considering Daryl Henderson here. Now you have Lamar Jackson going at the 508. Josh Jacobs at the 509. So I'd imagine now we're going to get probably a Kyler Murray to dome favors, considering as a DeAndre Hopkins. We have seen him go with that stack before. But now we have Burgundy Bet says, so who would you have took at 4 if you can't say Devontae Adams? Okay, so who would I have taken at? Okay, so if we're going to be going through, if we're going to be drafting at 4, I mean, personally, if we're playing in a league where you can start 4 wide receivers every single week, whether or not that's you have 2 flex spots or you have 3 starting wide receiver spots, and then you also actually only have 1 flex, then I'm going to be going with the Devontae Adams, given his floor and ceiling combination. However, if you're going to be playing in a league where you only start 2 receivers and you only start 1 flex, where you're very limited with what you can actually do at the receiver position, then I actually think it's going to be a lot more important to go with the bell cow running back. And then I'm going to be going with a Saquon Barkley, given the fact that he can see over 7 targets a game in a full PPR format. Now, if you're going to be transitioning from a full PPR to a half PPR, then I actually think that we're more likely to go with a player like Ezekiel Elliott, knowing that the targets per game aren't going to be as valuable as a Saquon Barkley. So yeah, it's really going to be dependent on the league that you're playing in. Oh yeah, so yeah, we have Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, TJ Hawkinson going, then Robbie Anderson, Devonta Smith. So this is exactly what we saw Cognition do in the other draft, where he went with these bell cow running backs at the very top. I guess he gets, quote unquote, an elite tight end as well with a Kyle Pitts here at the 309. And then he's just going to load up on a million receivers after this, considering the fact that it's a best ball format. But now let's switch this over really quick. So guys, keep in mind, this is a $250 draft. Now we have Laviska Shenault going at the 605. The pressure is on here, my dudes. The pressure is on. Okay, I think that there's one player that... Actually, there are a few guys in the same tier. Is that... Okay, we have a Mike Davis timeout selection. Mike Davis gets timed out to the 606. Daryl, the timeout in a $250 draft, that is absurd. And I know what's going to seem even more absurd than this is me deciding to draft another receiver here. But we're doing it. We're doing it. Let's take Deebo Samuel. We're taking Deebo Samuel as our wide receiver 4. I know, guys, this looks wild. 6 rounds without a single running back. But you have to understand that we are going and we are entering into that tournament with $100,000 on top. So my strategy for this league is to go and have that elite quarterback, have that elite tight end, crush people at receiver every single week. And keep in mind, I mean, all these guys project to be in our starting lineup. We have to start 3 receivers every week. We have a flex every single week. So we're going to be going through and getting this construction. And then from here, I think in rounds 9, 10, 11, 12, this is when we're going to be slamming running backs, when we're going to have the tier at receiver just completely drop off. I promise you guys, receiver's going to drop. Now, Steven comes out with the next donation, says, 10-man PPR, I have Kamara, DeAndre Swift, DeAndre Hopkins, A.J. Brown, Robert Woods in the flex. Should I trade Robert Woods for Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Honestly, yes, if you're playing in a 10-man PPR format, we need to understand that wide receiver is going to be at a little less of a value, given the fact that there are going to be more options available to you on the waiver wire. So yes, I actually would go through and make that trade, go and get that running back, because your league format does dictate that. Okay, so now we have Trey Sermon, Mike Williams, Dak Prescott. Okay, so with the Dak Prescott, I know a lot of people would probably want to say they wanted us to see us draft him in the middle of the 6th round. I would have potentially considered him in the middle of the 7th, considering the fact that we do have that Amari Cooper stack. But when we take a Josh Allen here, I think it's going to be very hard to end up going with the Dak Prescott. Now, Myles Gaskin does go off the board. Ooh, we do not want to go autopilot mode. And we also have DK Metcalf. So maybe it was a mistake going through and drafting a Josh Allen where we did, considering the fact that now we're in a spot where Russell Wilson would be very appealing. Now, Bo Diddley is on the clock, and he has 4 wide receivers in Devontae Adams, Allen Robinson, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd. So he's setting up a Joe Burrow Cincinnati Bengals stack, and he has 2 running backs in Nick Chubb and DeAndre Swift. Now he goes Aaron Rodgers. What did I tell you, boys? What did I tell you? I know a regular fantasy draft that you're going to be drafting and you're going to be expecting Kareem Hunt to possibly go in the 5th round. Lock and load Kareem Hunt, the middle of the 7th. Get that running back in here. Keep in mind, we're going for the highest ceiling possible, trying to win $100,000 at the end of the tournament. So if we're going through and just making a bet and saying, what's the outcome? Nick Chubb gets hurt. Just say it's a 5% chance, which is probably a lot more than that, knowing how running backs get injured in the NFL. Just say there's a 10% chance Nick Chubb gets hurt this upcoming season. If Kareem Hunt vaults up to be a top 10 running back on a team that has Kelsey, Metcalf, Amari, Julio, Deebo Samuel, Josh Allen, who's beating this team? Yeah, so we're going to go with a Kareem Hunt at the 706. So excited about that. I mean, if we would have seen Kareem Hunt and Chase Edmonds go 704, 705, I would have turned off the live stream. We would have turned off the live stream, and I probably would have deleted the YouTube channel. It would have been horrendous. But yeah, I think that Kareem Hunt at the 706, that is fantastic. Drop a like, guys. Drop a like, and just for that Kareem Hunt value, I'm so excited about that. Now we have Gus Edwards at the 710. Keep in mind, I think Gus Edwards is actually a much better pick in terms of his median projection compared to a Kareem Hunt. Now, the big thing that we have to understand is there are going to be other teams in this format that were able to get a Gus Edwards back there in like the 12th, 13th rounds. So when we get to the tournament, I don't want to be going up against those Gus Edwards teams that were going to be crushing me everywhere else in the starting lineup, and we have that same duplicate. So instead, I think in the tournament style, I'm going to be a little less willing to draft a Gus Edwards. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I should just take the player that's going to score more points. But I think that one unique wrinkle is going to change our strategy just slightly. Let me know if you think that I'm overthinking that concept with a Gus Edwards. Maybe it matters a little bit less here because there are not as many teams in this overall contest. But that's one worry that I'm going to have. I think at the 710, regardless, that's fantastic Gus Edwards value. At the 710, regardless, that's fantastic value. Okay, so now Darnell Mooney at the 802. Now let's switch this back over. Yeah, so I guess, I'm never going to be considering a Raheem Mostert. That's never going to be it's never going to be the way I go. It doesn't matter if we didn't get Kareem Hunt in the last round, we probably would draft Mostert. Okay, so a big thing when we're approaching the receiver position from here on out, I think a big thing that we have to be considering is the fact that it probably matters a little bit more to have access to an elite level ceiling compared to a floor like someone with a Jarvis Landry level. I don't know exactly what Jarvis Landry is giving us on this team construction. Maybe it makes a little more sense to go for someone that could pop off and give us the elite seasons near the end of the elite weeks near the end of the year with the fantasy football playoffs. Yeah, so we're probably going to make a quote-unquote reach here, but I think it's going to make sense. Yeah, so Curtis Samuel goes at the 806. So now it's going to be down between Nicole Hardman and Michael Thomas for me. And considering the fact that I think we can kind of eat a few weeks at 0 for Michael Thomas to try to get to the fantasy football playoffs, Thomas is going to be the selection. If we were playing in a league where, we didn't have the fantasy football playoffs and instead we had to go through and we had to just get the overall most points throughout the entire season, then I don't necessarily think that we take Michael Thomas here. But I think he fits the construction a lot in terms of I don't think there are really any receivers in this range whatsoever that have the same type of ceiling that a Michael Thomas would. So we're going to go with Michael Thomas. Okay, so now Rockout says, Hunt went in the 4th in my league. Good stuff, my man. No, thank you. Thank you for coming out, hanging out with us in the live chat. Yeah, I think that Hunt, a great value there in the 7th. Of course, maybe it would have been better just to go Gus Edwards in the 6th, Kareem Hunt in the 7th if we could have pulled that off. Maybe that would have been potentially better. Now, we still have this wide receiver run going. I'm telling you guys, wide receiver is going to get very ugly sooner rather than later. It's going to get very ugly sooner rather than later. Okay. Now, Michael Pittman goes to the 8-11. I actually think that you have to move Michael Pittman up your rankings considering the T.Y. Hilton injury. Now, Jarvis Landry does go at the 8-12. We have a ton of people subscribing to the channel. Thank you, everybody going down there, subscribing, joining the flock. We do this every single night, my dudes. And if y'all don't know where we are drafting right now, we are drafting on Underdog Fantasy. This is where we draft every single night. This is, in my opinion, my favorite place to draft, and it's not even close. And now what's so great about Underdog Fantasy and the partnership that we have with them is they decided to actually sponsor our 2021 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. If you want to get in a draft on the live stream, we do $10 drafts, we do $50 drafts. Occasionally, we'll do a $250 draft. All you have to do is make sure you go to Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FLOCK with a $10 deposit. You can find the link in the live chat. You can find it in the description of the live stream. And then there, you will actually get $25 added to your account with a $10 deposit and promo code FLOCK. And you will also actually end up getting our 2021 Fantasy Football Draft Guide, our 2021 rankings and tiers, all of which are going to be updated until the beginning of the season. That's literally like hundreds of pages, at least like $80 of value just for a $10 deposit. And obviously, it helps out the channel a ton. So make sure y'all use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. And let's go through, find the next player that we are going to be taking. So when we have a Lamar Jackson, the reason we take Lamar is we're going to be waiting a very long time until we go out and we get another quarterback on this team. And obviously, Michael Carter is someone that has to be falling down rankings right now. So I hate the fact that we don't get a Mostert or a Dillon making it back to us here. But I think we still continue to have to get wide receiver value when it represents itself. We're going to get someone that we think could have a very strong stretch down the season. So we're going to get Elijah Moore here. We are going to be rostering 6 running backs with this build. So like I said, what was the range we said we were going to be drafting our running backs? 10, 11, 12, 13. This is the range of our running backs. I think Elijah Moore is going to be one of the last guys that we can actually get in that wide receiver tier. Now, Tyler Higbee goes at the 908. Very intriguing to see Noah Fant go at the 804 to the team that ended up taking Kyle Pitts as well. I mean, they go Kyle Pitts and Noah Fant on the same team when you could, in reality, have gotten a tight end that's probably similar to the Noah Fant tier just out in the 9th round, to be honest. So I don't necessarily know exactly how we feel about that. Tyrell Williams at the 909. Dear Lord, I guess maybe you're just really buying into the fact that you're actually going to... Oh my God. You're really buying into the fact that you're going to have Tyrell Williams soaking up a lot of targets without Rashad Perriman there. I don't know if we could go Tyrell Williams at the 909. Not over Rondale Moore, not over Terrace Marshall. That's surprising. That is very surprising. Okay, so now we have, after this, okay, let's see who we end up having at the 9-10 turn. Okay, so obviously when we draft a Josh Allen in the 5th, we draft Josh Allen in the 5th, and we are not wanting to draft any quarterbacks for a very long time. So in this range, we want to see quarterbacks. We want to see tight ends go off the board. Marquez Calloway going behind Emmanuel Sanders, going behind Tyrell Williams, does seem like a fantastic value for me. Let's move this over. Now, Trey Lance really falling. They're really trying to push my Trey Lance love. Y'all know exactly how high I am on Trey Lance, how we've been very high on Trey Lance for a long time now. Now, Dome Favors does take a Dallas Goedert. So now the last guy in this tier is going to be a Robert Tonyan, but Cognition, I mean, this is a team that already has 2 tight ends, so I'd be very surprised if he actually goes with one. Now, Deasonators ends up having Tyler Higbee as his tight end 1, and then DeBaker has Darren Waller. So I'm assuming the Darren Waller team honestly doesn't need to go tight end. So I'm assuming if we have Robert Tonyan going off the board here whatsoever, it's most likely going to be the Deasonators, but we'll see. We'll see what happens here. He also could go running back. He could go receiver. So he takes a Russell Gage, DeBaker. I'd imagine this is 100% a receiver here. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't a receiver. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'd be very surprised. So Jacoby Myers, yeah. So Jacoby Myers goes. So like I said, guys, how did we map out this draft? I mapped out this draft as we were going to be getting running backs in our range. Who do you prefer, Jacoby Myers or Zach Moss? Who do you prefer, Russell Gage or Zach Moss? Who do you prefer, Henry? I think we played this beautifully. We're going to get our second running back coming in here in Zach Moss. Zach coming out with a massive, massive donation. Thank you, my dude. Guys, if y'all don't know who Zach is, if y'all see this entire stream set up here with the ticker at the bottom, with the entire box that we have and everything, Zach set us up with everything. So Zach, you again, thank you for that, my man. And thank you for supporting the flock. And he says, 12-man full PPR at the 112 position. I went Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Deandre Swift, Myles Gaskin, and then in parentheses, he says, running backs went early. I'm surprised that you had to reach on a Myles Gaskin in the 4th if you actually got Deandre Swift falling to you in the 3rd. Chase Edmonds, Brandon Ayuk, Josh Allen as your keeper, Brandon Cooks, Trey Sermon, Antonio Brown, Tyler Higbee, Trey Lance, Marquez Calloway, Anthony Ferguson. What are your thoughts? Okay, so a big thing I will say is this is what we always say when we break down teams and try to make suggestions going forward. I don't necessarily love having 2 starting quarterbacks here. Now, of course, you know how big of a fan I am of Trey Lance, so I would make that one exception for Trey Lance. However, now I will say what we're actually probably trying to do is once Lance takes over as the starting quarterback here, and if you're getting the production you like from Lance, don't try to trade Lance, because I actually think that you're not going to necessarily get the value in return that the points may provide. Instead, I would actually try to sell Josh Allen for a running back upgrade that you could get as a very strong running back too. If you could go through and maybe package together a Josh Allen and someone like, I don't know, just go to a Myles Gaskin and get the best running back that you could in turn. If you could go and get a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, that'd be very intriguing. Obviously, you have the depth at wide receiver. And then at running back, I mean, your overall running back room is weak. So I think right now what we're probably going to do is we're going to go into the season. We're just going to take the projected volume that we have at running back. We're going to play the guys with the nice matchups. And then once we have Trey Lance starting and producing to the level that we would like, I'd like to trade Josh Allen and package him with a running back to get a running back 1 that we would probably prefer. Okay, so now after this, we have Michael Carter going at the 11:03, Gabriel Davis. Now, this was a very bad turn of events because not only do we have the running backs going off that we would like, but we also have the Buffalo receivers going as well. So now we're going to be put in a very difficult spot with this next draft pick where we're probably going to end up making it. I know that it's not ideal. Okay, Trey Lance goes to the 11:05. Okay, so now we are stuck in a very, very bad spot. Now, if we go through, look at the teams behind us, there are a few teams that only have 2 running backs. So honestly, I think that we have to probably take a running back here. So between Fournette, Drake, I'm honestly going to be, I honestly probably want to be going Kenyon Drake. Okay, thank God I got him in. Thank God we got him in. That was cutting it close. But we're going to go Kenyon Drake as someone, when we're drafting a running back in this range, I'm trying to identify someone that we know is going to have a role on his offense, given the $11 million guaranteed that Kenyon Drake does. I think that he is going to have that role on his offense. And at the same time, if anything were to occur to Josh Jacobs, he could turn into a 3-down running back. So yeah, we're going to go Josh Jacobs there. I'm sorry, Kenyon Drake there. And Jing Zero comes out, says, I know this is not a general consensus, but could you see going Devonta Adams over Kamara from the 3 spot in a half PPR? Also, thanks for the streams, my dudes. No, man, thank you coming out, and thank you for supporting the channel. And I will say, so we actually had Devonta Adams ranked ahead of Alvin Kamara for our 103 up until the point where they made Jameis Winston the starter. Then I think we have to go through. I think we have to make that switch from from Devonta Adams to Alvin Kamara, just because you're a lot more confident with the targets that he's going to be getting out of the backfield all of a sudden. So yeah, I will say that I understand the thought process in wanting Devonta Adams. I was actually there earlier in the offseason, but Jameis Winston as the projected starter, I think you actually want to end up going with Kamara. And Alex says, brother, I DM'd you on Instagram yesterday for the guide, no reply. I mean, I'll pull up my Instagram right now. I've gotten back to maybe not 100, that's overreaction, maybe 45 people on Instagram today about that draft guide. Make sure you go through, and I'll send out my Instagram just in case you have it right. It's scrolling at the bottom of the screen real quick, but please double check to make sure you have it correct. Make sure you have it correct. I'm sending it out right now. It's literally just Mason_Dodd. And please go through and double check and just send out, just say double message or something, because I'm looking at it right now. I probably actually sent out more than 45 messages yesterday, and I'm looking at it and I don't think we missed any. Like, all the dots are there. Now we have Sony Michel going. Love the Sony Michel value at the 11:10. Devin Singletary at the 12:01. Okay, now let's switch this over. And yeah, I think we're going to be in a spot that we really like with our next pick as well. This draft, okay, so we have at quarterback Josh Allen, at running back Kareem Hunt, Zach Moss, Kenyon Drake. Keep in mind, this is a best ball league. We don't have to determine when we're going to start these guys. And then at receiver, we have DK Metcalf, Amari Cooper, Julio Jones, Deebo Samuel, Michael Thomas, Elijah Moore. And then we have Travis Kelce at tight end. So we have Devin Singletary, Philip Lindsay at the 12:02. Love seeing Lindsay go off the board. Lindsay would not have been someone I was considering. Now, AJ coming out with with a donation. Thank you, my man. Says, went 0 running back with the last pick in a 14-man PPR league. First 4 rounds ended up with DK Metcalf, Amari Cooper, T. Higgins, and grabbed Herbert in the 4th because elite quarterbacks were flying early. I'll say, I really like the start. Even with elite quarterbacks flying early, we have to just acknowledge the fact that, your league mates are going to stop drafting them at some point. So I probably wouldn't have gone with a Justin Herbert in the 4th round, to be completely honest. I know in a 14-team league, the 4th round is really like a late 5th in that range. But at the same time, I don't know if I could go there. I don't know if I could go there. I'm sorry to be an ass, but I think it's just going to be a very tough call. Okay. Now, Baker up on the clock. Ryan Tannehill. Okay, so we're just going to get another running back in here, trying to get running backs that are going to have small roles in their offenses, that an injury occurs, then they jump up and they can be starters. So far at running back, we have Kareem Hunt, Zach Moss, Kenyon Drake, and Leonard Fournette. So yeah, guys that don't necessarily project to have those roles right away, but we know running back is very fragile in the NFL, and we know a lot can happen. So this is the draft board for anybody just not coming into the live stream. Guys, if you're just not coming into the stream, make sure you go down there and drop that like. We're going to get another draft going after this one. Yeah, so let's scroll this down. We have not taken a receiver in quite a while. We've gone 3 running backs in a row. After our selection of a Leonard Fournette, we had Naheem Hines going directly after. It would have been really nice to get Jamal Williams falling to us with this next pick. But yeah, that would have been really nice, but it is what it is. Now you have Jonnu Smith going at the 12:01. Cheesehead says, just put $100 into Underdog using promo code FLOCK. My man, thank you so much for supporting the channel and using promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Now, I will say, guys, I definitely don't recommend going and depositing $100 on Underdog Fantasy right away. What I definitely recommend is just deposit $10 on Underdog Fantasy. And I'm saying this because I know exactly how much you're going to like Underdog Fantasy, to be completely honest. Deposit $10 because just with that $10, you will get the $25 added to your account. So you will have $35 to go out there and hop into some drafts with, and you'll be able to go through and see exactly how much you like it. And then you can decide if you want to deposit more. Don't deposit $100 right away. Make sure you just deposit $10 because you get $25 added to your account with promo code FLOCK on any deposit, including $10. So make sure you do 10 and just use promo code FLOCK, get our draft guide, get our rankings, get our tiers. And now we're going to be back up on the clock. We have 4 running backs at this point. At this point, I don't think we need to continue to push the position. Instead, we're probably going to go back to receiver, especially knowing that Bryan Edwards very rarely falling past this point. Yeah, so let's go with a Bryan Edwards as our wide receiver 7. And we're not going to consider drafting a quarterback. We're not going to consider a tight end for a very long time. And we're not wanting that many running backs on this team either. So yeah, I think that when we have Hunt, Zach Moss, Kenyon Drake, Leonard Fournette, yeah, we're kind of betting on an injury, but we're betting on an injury and going, if one occurs, who has more upside than this team? Very few teams. So we're going to take a Bryan Edwards. I'm surprised to see running backs like a Latavius Murray and a Damien Williams going off directly before us. I'm happy to see it, to be honest. I like that it's pushing value down to us. Now, Matt coming out with a donation. Thank you, my man. Says, in an 8-team draft tonight, ended up with Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, Najee Harris, George. Okay, everybody read Matt's question real quick. He says, in an 8-team draft tonight, ended up with Dalvin, Barkley, Harris, Kittle, McLaurin, Cooper, Dak, and then a lot of high upside wide receivers. Are you drafting with children? I'm assuming Matt is like an elementary school teacher. And he maybe told some kids like at Meet the Teacher Day, he was like, hey, I'm starting up a fantasy football draft. Would y'all like to participate? And like 7 kids were like, sure. I don't know what fantasy football is. And he went out there and he drafted Dalvin in the 1st, Saquon in the 2nd, Najee Harris in the 3rd, George Kittle in the 4th. That is ridiculous, my man. That is ridiculous. Okay. So then Pat Frymuth at the 1309. I hate to say it. And like I said at the beginning of this draft, I naturally assume that these drafters in the $250 league, they know something that I don't. This has to be a dead team, right? This is the second time we have seen Cognition in one of these drafts go out there and draft 3 tight ends early. They have Kyle Pitts, Noah Fant, and Pat Frymuth in the 12th. In the 13th. This is so intriguing. At receiver, they only have Galladay, Corey Davis, Tyrell Williams, Henry Ruggs, Jalen Rigg. This is a dead team. I'm saying it right now. It doesn't matter how many receivers they get at the end of this draft. That has to be a punt. I think that's like a donation to the league pot. Okay, so Darrington Evans at the 1402. We're fine seeing those running backs go off. Okay, so now let's try to figure out where we're going after this. J.D. McKissick at the 1403. I actually like that J.D. McKissick selection out of all the players that were going in that range. Now, Matt Ryan, yes, he looks like he's the best available quarterback, but at the end of the day, I mean, what are we accomplishing when we drafted Matt Ryan? He's someone that doesn't stack with any of our players right now. I mean, maybe we just look it up and see exactly how far behind ADP is actually falling. Like an Evan Ingram goes at this point, an injured Evan Ingram. We're actually probably going to go with the Matt Ryan. I don't know what we do to try to build in an interesting stack. Actually, no. Let's just get AJ Green here. There are going to be quarterbacks that we like later on. I mean, we can get someone like Jameis Winston. We can get someone like a Zach Wilson. There are going to be a lot of quarterbacks that we can stack with the receivers. So instead, we're just going to bring in another high upside receiver in an AJ Green. It's going to be someone running a lot of routes, seeing a lot of targets. Hopefully, he just falls into the end zone twice any given week during that playoff stretch. And then that could pay off that selection in the 14th. In I-360, Tashi comes out, says 16-man, 15th pick, half PPR. I heard your input on running back for the first 3 picks. But what about running back, wide receiver like Hopkins, then getting a stack with Kyler Murray in the 3rd? Okay, so in a 16-man league, I understand that you're going to have to push up quarterbacks just slightly because it's going to be a lot harder to go through and find someone that you can actually stream from the waiver wire. Still, I don't know if we can be... Actually, I guess you can draft a Kyler I think you could take a Kyler in the 3rd because if you're taking Kyler in the 3rd, you're taking him at like pick 45, which is more so like the end of the 4th round in a 12-man league. We know that quarterbacks are going to be more valuable. So I'm fine with that. I'm fine with it. I don't love it because I don't love taking the quarterback in that range. I would probably still prefer to soak up running backs instead, but I'm going to be fine with it. Now we have James White, David Johnson going up. David Johnson in the 15th. Very rarely see David Johnson go in that range anymore. Okay, so down to Deshawn Jackson at the 1504. I mean, there are a lot of tight ends that went ahead of these guys that I don't like. You're taking a Pat Freiermuth over Hunter Henry? Am I missing something? Okay, so Hunter Henry does end up going. I think that honestly, we probably have an easy decision here. Like if we look at wide receivers, it's either going to be down between a Christian Kirk and KJ Hamler. Let's just take Christian Kirk. Let's go Christian Kirk. We're going to be drafting 6 running backs on this team. Probably going to be done at receivers sometime soon. And then we're going to get 1 more quarterback and 1 more tight end. So we're just continuing to slam in receivers from here. I think this has been I'm not joking. I know the team looks ugly on paper, but understanding the volatility of the season and what we are trying to accomplish with shooting for upside, this is my favorite draft. This is my favorite tournament draft that we have done so far. Okay, so now after this, we do have Zach Wilson, Austin Hooper going up the board as well as Chuba Hubbard. Then KJ Hamler goes. Let's check out what Dome Favors has done so far because Dome Favors in every single one of these drafts clearly looks like a very strong drafter. So at receiver, yes, Hill, Hopkins, Evans, Gallup, Rondell, Sterling Shepard, KJ Hamler. At running back, he has J.D. McKissick, Sony Michel, Gus Edwards, Chris Carson. At quarterback, he has Kyler Murray, he has Logan Thomas, Dallas Goedert. At tight end, a very balanced team. Okay, so Quez Watkins, Nico Collins at the beginning of the 16th. And thank you everybody subscribing to the channel and joining the flock. We do this every single night, my dudes. We do this every single night. Let me give out some shout outs. We got Pretzel Plays subscribing, Street Gaming. After that, we have Brandon Lee, Jr., Blake, Carter, Jarrell, Benell, Devin, Cole, Venice, Firekicks, Casey, all subscribing to the channel. Maddox, thank you all for joining the flock. Now, Jameis Winston going at the 1604, Zach Ertz as well. Let's pull this back over. Obviously, we're not looking to draft any of these players anytime soon. Who are we considering in this range? How bad would it be to... Do we have any news on Irv Smith? Do we have any news? Is this going to be... Yeah, so we're not going to know until after the surgery. We're probably just going to end up going Carson Wentz here. No. Okay, we tried to draft Carson Wentz. We got autoed Irv Smith. I guess it's a high upside pick for this tournament. I don't love it. That's my fault for not figuring it out. That's my fault for reading the live chat until we are on the clock trying to figure it out. But yeah, it is what it is. We have Travis Kelce, so we're more so looking for a cover at the end of the season. We're looking for someone that could potentially spike in the playoffs because we're going to have Kelce starting every week. And now Tommy comes out, so it's 12-man league. I got Henry, A.J. Brown, Joe Mixon, Chris Godwin, Adam Thielen, Noah Fant, and Aaron Rodgers. So I'm assuming you went Derrick Henry in the first. In the 12-man league, how did you bring on both A.J. Brown and Joe Mixon? Did Mixon fall to the third in that league? I'd imagine that's what happened. I mean, getting Mixon in the third is ridiculous. Then Broman comes out, says a 10-man full PPR at the 110, went Diggs, Eckler, Justin. Like, what is happening with y'all's drafts? You're getting Jefferson falling to you at the 310, A.J. Brown at the 402, Deandre Swift in the 5th, Logan Thomas, Aaron Rodgers, Devonta Smith, Trey Sermon, Marquez Calloway, Jonnu Smith, Michael Pittman, Jalen Waddle, Marvin Jones. And he says, also, you saved my 2020 season. Thanks, my guy. No, man, thank you so much for supporting the channel and being a part of the flock. That's a fantastic team. I know that. Yeah, that is a fantastic team. That's all I have to say, my man. I just don't understand how y'all are getting that kind of value falling to you in your drafts. Okay. Let's get it going. Let's get this going. Derek Carr. Now, quarterback, there are a couple options. Jared Goff, Mac Jones. Oh, dear Lord. Oh, dear Lordy. That Irv Smith auto pick killed us. Yeah, we're going to have to take Mac Jones here. That Irv Smith auto pick. Oh, my God. That killed us not getting Carson Wentz. We just had to go with the quarterback because you're looking at the fact that we don't take a quarterback there. We don't know if we get a starter making it back to us. Oh, my gosh. I got so excited. I know Dome Favors is about to go with our guy. We know Dome Favors is going to take him. Oh, that is brutal. Brutal having to go back Jones there at the 1706. Just trying to, again, guys, find players that could spike during that fantasy football playoff stretch. Oh my, how did we auto pick Irv Smith? Getting Carson Wentz there would have just been a dream. It would have set this team up extremely nice. Okay, so Carlos Hyde goes to the 1710. Ramondre Stevenson, that was the player that I wanted. I thought we were setting ourselves up to get Ramondre Stevenson in the 17th round as our running back 5. That is brutal. We just tanked this. Okay, we're going to continue to try to get this back. And we got vengeance on the next draft we're doing. We got vengeance on the next draft. I don't want to make excuses, but this is why I need to stop reading the live chat as much as I am in a $250 league. This is a $250 draft, and we're doing this on our own. We don't have a co-owner with this. This is just us. So we got to make sure that we're going through and paying fully attention to the board. Okay. Now we're putting this back up. Okay, let me go through and got to pull up Roto World real quick to make sure we're not missing out on anything with the player that we're about to draft. So in my opinion, it does look like pretty damn good value. Like a big thing is if we wanted to draft an injured tight end, hoping that he made it back for the fantasy football playoffs, we would just take Adam Troutman. We would just take an Adam Troutman. Okay, so let's go through and okay, so I think that yeah, we'll be able to go through. I think that our next pick is going to be nice. Our next pick is going to be nice because what we're trying to accomplish with our next pick is we're trying to find a running back that's going to have a role on his offense. We don't have to be worried about DeBaker going with the running back here. He kind of has to go with the receiver with his last 3 picks. Maybe he gets another tight end. So yeah, we're going to go Malcolm Brown here. Malcolm Brown, I think, is the perfect example. That also looked like an auto pick. RIP. RIP auto drafting in a $250 draft. I was making fun of someone for timing out earlier, and we do it ourselves on a live stream. Now we're going to get Malcolm Brown as our running back 5. Now, none of our running backs have the same bye week. I do like that if we're going to go this thin at the position, just hoping that these guys kind of rotate through and give us what we're looking for. And then, yeah, I mean, we're just going to be beating every single person at receiver every week. We're going to be hopefully staying afloat at running back. And all we need to stay afloat at running back is we just need an injury to either Nick Chubb, to either Devin Singletary, to either Josh Jacobs, to either Ronald Jones, or possibly just, I mean, having them spike at the right time. Okay, so John Brown goes to the 1808. So we're going to be getting one more running back and one more receiver on this team. One more running back and one more receiver. And then we're going to get another live draft going after this, my dudes. So that's going to be sent out in the live chat for anybody wanting to go out there and join with us. I don't think we're going to do another $250 draft. This is 3 $250 drafts that we have done in the past 3 days. So yeah, we're not going to get another one going. I mean, in the past 2 days. I think we've done 4 of them in the past 3 days, to be honest. We've been doing a ton of these $250 drafts. So thank you for everybody on Patreon. Thank you for everybody on Patreon. Thank you for Underdog Fantasy for this amazing partnership. So obviously, we want to be able to do these $250 drafts on our own. Okay, so now we have Tony Jones at the 1901. Probably would have been someone we would have taken in the 19th round, to be completely honest. Just trying to find someone that fits that criteria that we're looking for. Now we're just running back and receiver from here. Only running back and receiver. Yeah, so there are... Let's look at the... Okay, so I'd imagine that Burgundy Betts here maybe goes with the running back. Burgundy Betts currently is in the live chat. There are a couple... Okay, so there are... Cognition only has 4 running backs as well. He went 4 running backs at the very top. So let's see where Burgundy Betts goes. He goes Adam Troutman. Okay, so I'm assuming maybe he goes running back with his last pick. Devontae Booker goes at the 1905. I'm assuming we're going to end up going with Jerick McKinnon here. We'll just make sure Jerick McKinnon's still on the roster. That would probably be a good thing to do. Okay, yeah. Looks like Jerick McKinnon's on the roster. Let's go through and let's take him quickly before we auto draft that one as well. Yeah. Okay, so now our last pick is going to be spent at receiver. Our last pick is going to be at receiver. And real quick, we have Mason coming out with a donation. Thank you, my man, and hell of a name. And he says, 12-man happy PR, quarterback Matthew Stafford, Trey Lance, running back Alvin Kamara, Sony Michel, AJ Dillon, Kenyon Drake, Jamal Williams, wide receiver Devontae Adams, Robert Woods, Allen Robinson, Robbie Anderson, Darnell Mooney, tight end Darren Waller. Says, lost Travi, what should I do with my running back 2 spot? Also have my board, LOL, let me know. Okay, so it looks like this is a team that was devastated, just like so many of ours. with Travis Etienne. I am going to say, I know you're probably not going to want to hear this. I think we sit still. I think we sit still, honestly, until we get Trey Lance starting at QB. And then we can potentially make a move depending on what Trey Lance looks like. But for now, I think that you can actually just go through and you can play Michelle, Dillon, Drake, Williams based on the matchup and based on the roles that they have on a week-to-week basis. Obviously, you have Alvin Kamara slated to be in there every single week. If you could go through, if you could potentially package together Darnell Mooney in one of your running back twos to get an upgrade at the position, maybe you go out there and you make that decision. But outside of that, my man, it's going to be hard to really do anything else. I think that the only thing we would do is look to package together Darnell Mooney and one of those running backs to get a running back two. But I think you're honestly fine in a vacuum. Okay, so Denzel Mims at the 19-11. And so our last pick, and we're going to get let's get a $10 draft. No, we'll get a $50 draft going in after this. We'll get a $50 draft going after this one. And I'll send that. That's going to be a private draft in the live chat. So do not go and join a $50 draft in the public lobby. I'll get the $50 set up and I'll send it in the live chat after this one. And it will just say $50 draft here, and then it'll have a link right after it. So Justin Jackson at the 2001. Okay, so Nitty Gritty says he auto-picked Dobbins. I'm assuming you're saying nobody in here auto-picked Dobbins, right? Yeah, nobody auto-picked Dobbins. I think that underdog made it sure that nobody would auto-pick Dobbins. Kendrick Bourne at the 2003. Now, dear Lord, we made some mistakes here. Knowing that we could get Teddy Bridgewater, Jared Goff in the 19th round, that made the Mac Jones selection really bad when we could have had Ramondre Stevenson. Yeah, we messed up this draft a couple times. There were multiple things that we could have done better here. We're just going to be looking at a receiver. Tyron Johnson, Keelan Cole, Amari Rodgers, Chris Conley, Travis Fulgham. I think that we did so good on this draft halfway through, and then we just completely botched it. It is what it is. And here, if this was a puppy draft, if we were trying to find someone that was going to be very low owned, I'd probably be going and taking someone like a Devin Duvernay. But I think it's less important to take someone that's low owned in a draft like this. So instead, I think we actually just go in with an Amari Rodgers. Yeah, so let's take Amari Rodgers here instead. And yeah, let's go through and let's switch this over and get a $50 draft going right now. And possibly after this $50 draft, depending on how many people are in the live stream, we will get a $10 draft going as well. But first, let's set up this 50 and let's get it going fast so we may have time for a $10 draft tonight as well. Okay. So let's grab this link. And this is going to be sent out in the live chat. It just says $50 draft here and then blank. And guys, if you are not signed up for Underdog Fantasy yet to get in these drafts with us, we're going to do a $10 draft, hopefully after this, depending on how fast this one goes. Make sure you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. This is where we're drafting every single night. And when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, you can find a link in the description of the video. You can find a link in the live chat. You're actually going to get $25 added to your account with a $10 deposit. You're going to get our 2021 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. You're going to get our 2021 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, and you're going to help the channel tremendously. So you're literally getting paid $25 to go out there and play fantasy football, to get into fantasy football drafts with us on the live stream. Of course, you can do public drafts as well with random people in public lobbies, or you can just wait and do them in the live stream with us. And you're also getting all of that because Underdog is sponsoring it with this fantastic partnership that we have. So please make sure y'all take advantage, my dudes. Make sure y'all take advantage. Okay. So now we have 2 spots left available in this draft. So if you wanted in this league, you could have gotten this league. This is probably the slowest $50 draft that we had, Phil, in a long time. Now we have the 110. And Burgundy Bet says, Mason, how does that 4th overall team look? Let me go and pull it up on another screen here. I'm not going to show it off on this draft board just because we're on a new one, but let me look at it and see if there are any critiques that I bet you did not mess up the end of the draft as I did. I mean, I think we just completely botched it after the auto pick. The auto pick happened, and I was like, oh my God, dear Lord. Okay, so let's go through, and I believe we're just trying to find that current draft. Yeah, we just got it. Okay, so we're going to go check out Burgundy Bets real quick. Burgundy Bets, Henry, Mixon, CH, Mahomes, Andrews. Okay, so you wait a very long time on a receiver. See the receivers you're able to get. Sutton, Fuller, Cooks, Jones, Gabriel Davis, MVS, Sammy Watkins, Deshaun Jackson, Byron Pringle, Alan Lazard. I will say that I think I like the overall thought process. I don't know what I think about, however, like with your last round pick, taking a Todd Gurley instead of just an extra receiver. I think that it's probably a punt to take 3 tight ends on this build. Like if we could go receiver in the last 2 rounds, I probably would like that a little bit more, to be honest. But overall, I think it's a very strong team. And this is going to be a $50 draft, my dudes. A $50 draft. Okay, so now CMC goes to the 101. Little Red Fournette out here in another draft. We have not seen him out here in quite a while. Happy that he is joining us for this one. He gets the 101. J.K. Ooper, a regular of the channel. Rummy Rams, a regular. Vito's Pizza, a regular. Zigzag, regular. Art Show, I believe this is maybe a new drafter. Chase, he's a regular. Derek, he's a regular. Now Riggs, I believe a new drafter. Then Mason's Basement Secret. I thought I took away their cell phone privilege last time they got in the draft. Somehow I guess they snuck it back. They were able to get in this one again. Then we have Daddy Rabbit out here. I believe Daddy Rabbit is also a regular. Okay, so you have Devontae Adams here going before Dalvin Cook. Dear Lord, I cannot get behind that. I cannot get behind that selection. You have to go Dalvin. You have to go Dalvin. Was there some Dalvin Cook news today that I don't know about? Because this is like the 3rd time I've been asked or seen someone really doubting Dalvin Cook today. Okay, so yeah, I don't see anything in terms of Dalvin Cook news. What the hell is happening for Dalvin Cook to fall like this? That is crazy. Okay, so Kelsey at the 106. So Kelsey, we just drafted him at the 106 in the last draft. Honestly, I really liked how it made our draft play out until we botched it. We should have just gone Carson Wentz. If we would have just manned up, took Carson Wentz at the beginning, I think that draft would have been really good. And now this is only a 12-man league, so we don't have to necessarily be shooting for the most upside possible here. So you're going to see a slightly different strategy in this league where we're actually going to end up going with probably a running back here. We're probably going to end up going with a Saquon Barkley in the first round at the 110. Okay, so Mason's Basement Secret on the clock. They go Stephon Diggs. That's not a surprise to anybody. I mean, I'd imagine most people are expecting Stephon Diggs to go off the board. Then Daddy Rabbit goes Calvin Ridley at the 112. Jonathan Taylor goes to the 201. So I'm planning on going running back here. When we're just playing in a 12-man league, we don't necessarily have to be trying to find the most upside possible. We have to be finding a decent amount of upside, but I think we can do that in the later rounds at receiver. So we're probably just going to go with whoever falls between, Austin Eckler and Nick Chubb. So Nick Chubb's the guy. So we're going to start this draft off with Saquon Barkley and Nick Chubb in the first and the second round. Okay. Nitty Gritty says, imagine trying to decide between Zeke, Henry, Barkley, and then Dalvin Cook falls to you. I know that is a gift. I very rarely seen Dalvin Cook. I think this may be the only draft I have seen Dalvin Cook fall to out of like the 150 drafts that I've done. Actually, no, that's a lie, because I remember one draft that I was actually in. It was one of the puppy drafts that I was just doing in the middle of the day. It wasn't on a live stream. And I will admit, I was drafting at the 103. As soon as I got the 103, this is when it was in question that Taysom Hill may be starting for the New Orleans Saints. So I wasn't a fan of drafting Kamara at that spot. Instead, we were just taking Devonta Adams. So I queued Devonta Adams, and then I mean, for whatever reason, like Derrick Henry went at the 102 or something, and then I just drafted Devonta Adams without paying attention, not knowing Dalvin Cook was available. So yeah, then we saw Dalvin Cook go at the 104. But maybe, just maybe, something similar happened with Rummy Rams, where Rummy Rams didn't intend to make that selection of a Dalvin Cook. He was surprised to see him even last there, and he just selected Devonta Adams before he realized what happened. Okay. Now, Joe Mixon at the 208. Darren Waller at the 209. So this is back-to-back that we've actually seen Ezekiel Elliott falling a little bit in these drafts. Zeke falls here to the 108. That is intriguing. In the last draft, we had him fall to the 109, and the last draft was a $250 league. Okay, so A.J. Brown at the 210. Come on. I think that at this point, it's kind of clear. We want receivers falling to us. And what's kind of funny is when we go running back in the first and second, we know that we're getting the receivers falling to us. It doesn't matter. It's such a large tier of receiver at the end of the third and the beginning of the fourth. We know that literally it doesn't matter what we see in the next 10 picks don't matter at all. We know exactly how it's going to look like. Maybe the names at receiver are a little bit different, but they're going to be in the same tier regardless. So I can't even sit here and kind of stress on who we're going to see with our next two selections because, I mean, the end of the third, the beginning of the fourth, it's very similar every single time. The only decision that you have is, do we possibly go with the running back? And obviously, when we have Barkley, Chubb, we're not going to be going with the running back in this range. Saram says, yeah, he didn't see that Dalvin Cook was available. Okay, so Saram at the 103 says he didn't see Dalvin Cook was available when he decided to go with Devonta Adams. Yeah, literally the same thing happened to me in a draft. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago because it was definitely at the point where, I mean, I thought that Taysom Hill was potentially going to be at least in the running for the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, and I just didn't want to have to deal with the risk that Alvin Kamara would present, so I assumed Dalvin was going at the 102, and then we had just some random person going with something crazy. Okay, so now Lamb falls to the 304 after Allen Robinson goes at the 302. You very rarely are you seeing Allen Robinson go in that range. I personally really like Allen Robinson. I'm on board saying 100% of the time you need to draft him over Terry McLaurin. Now, however, seeing him at the 302, that's a little aggressive over Keenan Allen and both CeeDee Lamb. Okay, so now we are going to be back up on the clock in just a few picks. Like I said, when we go running back here with Barkley and Nick Chubb, we are essentially locking ourselves into receivers with the next two selections. Given this league format, we definitely need to make sure we're bringing in receivers. And there are so many players here that we know we're going receiver. It doesn't matter what falls to us. I mean, even guys like Godwin, DJ Moore, Julio Jones that are behind these running backs in ADP, I'd still be drafting them at the 403 when we start Barkley and Nick Chubb in a league where we have to start 3 receivers every single week. So we have Mahomes going at the 307. That's perfect for us. We're going to get a wide receiver that we like slightly more. So now at the 310, let's see where we're going to go. I'm sure that most people know exactly what we're drafting. So we have David Montgomery. So we're actually going to end up drafting a Cooper Kupp here. I prefer Kupp both over Tyler Lockett and Mike Evans. So yeah, I mean, Mike Evans, not someone that I'm a massive fan of. I guess if there are the other wide receivers that we really like, yo here, and then all of a sudden we're staring at a Mike Evans at the 403, I'll take him there. But a big problem is with Mike Evans, I think you're betting on the touchdown, just the touchdowns being there and not necessarily the volume. And I've talked at length with why that's a bad bet and why we would prefer to chase volume. Now, Chris Godwin goes at the 311. Obviously, y'all know that Chris Godwin would have been someone that I was really hoping that we were going to get at the 403. In love with Chris Godwin and his price this season. Now, however, I mean, very rarely are you seeing Chris Godwin sneak his way into the third round. Now, I know the drafts that we do on the live stream, Godwin goes a lot there because everybody that gets into these underdog drafts on the live stream, they all have my rankings. They all have my tiers in my draft guide because they use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. So they kind of know that I'm looking to go with the Chris Godwin at the 403. But, I mean, all those drafts that we are doing just in the public lobbies, we're getting Chris Godwin consistently, like in the middle of the fourth round. It's kind of ridiculous. I have like 17, 18% Chris Godwin so far in fantasy leagues. Okay. So now Jayan says, check Twitter. Jayan, I think that I'm assuming I know what you're saying on Twitter right now. I'm assuming Jayan's telling us to go, I got you, my man. We're going to listen to Jayan actually, and I think we're going to go with a James Robinson here. Yes, this is going to be a big time reach according to ADP. Actually, you know what, Jayan? I don't know if I can do it. I think it's a good call. Thank you for giving me the heads up. I think that we actually probably have to go with Tyler Lockett here in a best ball format, knowing that he can randomly spike to see our lineup. I like the call, but going Barkley, going Nick Chubb, I'm just very afraid of what we're actually going to be looking at with wide receivers later on. So we're going to go Cup. We're going to go Lockett. Thank you for the call. I'm glad that, I wish we would have saw your Dobbins call earlier when you gave it to us last night. But yeah, you definitely got that in time. That's just me going through and checking that. Okay, Nathan says, finally caught you doing a live draft. My man, Nathan, thank you for coming out. And guys, if y'all want to come out to these live drafts and live chats very often, make sure you just subscribe to the channel and hit the bell next to the subscribe button. I know that a lot of people will see this like live draft once and then they won't see another one recommended to them by YouTube for like another month. And then they'll ask me like, when did you start live drafting it? I'm like, I've been doing it every single night. Just YouTube is very fluky when it wants to recommend the channel for you. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying it and you want to see this often. Okay, so now after this, we have Allen going in the 4th, Kyle Pitts going in the 4th as well. Dear Lord, it doesn't change what we're doing that much because neither player would have really been available to us at the end of the 5th round. But still crazy to see Kyle Pitts at the 406 there. Peter says, what is your Lockett exposure? Seen that you picked him a few times. Honestly, I bet I'm very low on Tyler Lockett. This is someone that is more appealing in best ball considering we don't have to go out there and know when he's going to see his random spike weeks. So I don't necessarily like him in a managed weekly format. But if I pull up right now, Tyler Lockett, I've drafted him twice tonight. But overall, yeah, I'm very thin on Tyler Lockett. I've actually only drafted Tyler Lockett in 5.7% of drafts. So I have Tyler Lockett in very few leagues. Okay. Yeah, and Chris Godwin, I have at 17.01%. And Cooper Kupp, I should be overweight on Cooper Kupp as well. Yeah, Cooper Kupp, I'm at 10.7. Now, Ayuk, Adam Thielen, Deontay Johnson, Jerry Jeudy, a little bit of a wide receiver run. Okay, so Sonny, Thunderheart, Jared, Dante, Kevin, Giuseppe, Marco, Pretzel Plays, all subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for going down there, joining the flock. Tommy says the 104 has the best start so far. I'll agree with you. Dalvin Cook. Obviously, it's like a cheat code when you get Dalvin Cook at the 104. You're going to be put in such a nice spot to just go out there and dominate the draft. But still, Dalvin Cook, Darren Waller, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk. I agree with you, my man. That is a very strong start. Now, Deandre Swift falling all the way to the 503 to Saram. So I know that we passed on a Deandre Swift in the middle of the 4th, and a lot of people probably thought that we were stupid for that earlier today in that $250 draft. But Swift going at the 503 here is pretty intriguing. Okay. So now let's switch this. I hate that we double click that and that always happens. Okay, so now we are going to be just at a very balanced position so far with this roster where we can really do whatever we want when we have 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and Daryl Henderson still going at the 504. I don't see the reason for drafting Daryl Henderson over Josh Jacobs at this point. I cannot consider drafting Daryl Henderson over Josh Jacobs. Now, Jamar Chase at the 505. Okay. Yeah, Jamar Chase, I think, is intriguing like a tournament that we just got done doing because we know that during the fantasy football playoffs, he could have access to that elite level ceiling. Just a little less interested in players like that in this league where we're going to need production through the entire year. Now, Jacobs does go at the 506. There's one player in particular that I'm looking to really lock into here. Odell Beckham Jr. at the 507. AJ Brown at the 508. Okay, so we're going to get our guy. We're getting our guy here at the 510. It's honestly not even one guy. Yeah, we're going to go with Lamar Jackson here. Y'all know exactly. We are looking to get that elite level quarterback. This is something that I've kind of changed my mind on, to be completely honest. I think getting that elite level quarterback in this range is a lot more valuable than what we were giving it credit for earlier this offseason, where just the other players in this range are going to be at such a flat tier that I think just getting a Lamar Jackson makes a lot of sense. He's the only quarterback that we have to draft in this draft, and Mark Andrews goes directly after. You know that we wanted Mark Andrews on this team. Mark Andrews would have been perfect to get that stack with Lamar Jackson. That's what I try to accomplish every single time. Of course, it's easier to accomplish in a public draft where we're not live streaming it because people want to come out here. They want to snipe us. Now we got Robbie Anderson at the 512. Now I have to kind of keep my mouth quiet right now. So we're not dying for running back production when we have both Saquon Barkley and Nick Chubb. Hawkinson goes at the 601. That sucks. I really wanted TJ Hawkinson. I wanted one of those tight ends. Oh my gosh, that is brutal. I think at this point, we probably continue to bring wide receivers onto this team, knowing that we have to start 3 receivers every single week. This was like the worst thing seeing, though. Both of those tight ends going off the board. We're just going to get between a Deebo Samuel and a Tyler Boyd. We're most likely going to bring in Tyler Boyd, considering the fact that, I mean, you could see a bump up if anything were to occur to a Jamar Chase with some off-the-field concerns that could possibly be a problem. We don't know yet. I shouldn't say anything just because it's so much of an unknown. But if there's a tiny chance that it's a big deal, I think Tyler Boyd in the beginning of the 6th could be intriguing. Okay, now Trey Sermon goes at the 604. Running back would have been nice if we decided to go with Stephon Diggs in the first. Like if we would have gone with Diggs in the first instead of Saquon Barkley, I probably would have gone, honestly, with either Javonte Williams or Kareem Hunt at the 603. Now Dak Prescott goes at the 605. Kareem Hunt at the 606. Ishan says, what happened to Deandre Swift and why is he fallen in value 2 rounds? A big thing is just that groin injury. Don't necessarily know if he's going to be ready to go right away. So it's hard to go out and just say that DeAndre Swift is someone that you can confidently draft in a league where you have the fantasy football playoffs. He's a little more appealing considering the fact that he can give you the production at the end of the season. But in this draft, points in week 1 actually matter just as much in points as points in week 16. So you're essentially just trying to find as many points as possible right away. So that's why you're going to end up seeing someone like a DeAndre Swift fall down draft boards. Okay, now we have Tyler Boyd, Laviska Shenault, Deebo Samuel going at receiver. Now you have Javonte Williams falling all the way to the 609. Great value with Javonte Williams right there. Drops says, don't you prefer Laviska Shenault over Tyler Boyd or Deebo Samuel? Yes, I definitely prefer Laviska Shenault over Tyler Boyd or Deebo Samuel. But a big thing is, like we say, I mean, guys, if I was drafting off my rankings and I'm going through and I'm drafting Laviska Shenault over Tyler Boyd every single time, I'm going to end up drafting Laviska Shenault in the 40% of my fantasy drafts. Like if I drafted Laviska Shenault where we had him ranked, we would have Laviska Shenault in 75% of my leagues. I simply can't go out there and afford to do that because what will happen is whenever we do have the injury to a Travis Etienne, instead of having him if we would have drafted Travis Etienne every time where we had him ranked, I would have Travis Etienne about half of my fantasy leagues. We would have had him in about 75 leagues. And then I'm just going bankrupt. I can't do that. I have to make sure we mix our exposures just slightly. Like Tyler Boyd is someone I've drafted very, very few of. Like Tyler Boyd, I've drafted in less than 8% of leagues. Laviska Shenault, I've drafted way more than that. So yeah, I have to make sure that we're mixing up those exposures. I can't necessarily just be going out. Like if I'm drafting in 1 league, if I'm drafting in 3 leagues, yeah, I'm just going off my rankings and we're just living off that way. If I'm drafting in 250 leagues, however, there we have to be a little more aware of what we're actually going to be trying to do because we're drafting in 250 leagues. I think that we need to be knowing where players are going to be going in the majority of drafts because, yeah, maybe we have access to get both Tyler Boyd and Laviska Shenault in this draft, but in tomorrow's draft, I'm probably only going to be looking at Laviska Shenault. Okay, so now let's switch this back. Okay, Dynasty coming out with the donation says full PPR, Antonio Gibson, Chris Godwin for Najee Harris, Chris Godwin. Okay, so I'm assuming this is just Antonio Gibson or Najee Harris. Honestly, I think that we are actually going to end up going with a Najee Harris if this is a Dynasty fantasy football, considering the fact that with Najee Harris, given he has that 5th-year option on his rookie contract, this is someone that we can confidently say is going to see 300-plus touches over the next 4 years. And I know Antonio Gibson's actually a younger running back. I don't know how many people that surprises, but I actually care a little bit more for Dynasty fantasy football, the actual contract of the running back rather than the age itself. Okay, so Riggs about to be on the clock. So they go with a Damien Harris. So here we're just going to go with a Michael Gallup at the 7-10. We're continuing to bring in these receivers. We need to try to find as many receivers as we can in this range. Okay, so Mike Williams at the 7-11. A Daddy Rabbit on the clock. He has Taylor, Carson, Ridley, Evans, Robbie Anderson, and TJ Hawkinson. He has back-to-back picks here. So he can go really anywhere he wants. Maybe he gets a Herbert and Aaron Rodgers. He wouldn't have any stacks. Okay, so Justin Herbert. I'd imagine that Mason's basement secret actually wanted to probably get Justin Herbert at the 802 to end up stacking with a Mike Williams. I bet he isn't that excited that Herbert goes between them. Now, keep in mind that, this is the guy that sniped Mark Andrews from us when we drafted Lamar Jackson. So I would call that karma. I think that's karma in action right here. See where else he goes. Jarvis Landry at the 801. Okay, come on. The pressure is on right now. Actually, I can't say anything. Okay, come on. Taking it down to the wire. He goes, DJ Chark, thank God. Okay, so guys, you could see that we were desperate for tight end. I think Logan Thomas is such a no-brainer pick at this 7-8 turn, knowing that when you have an Irv Smith injury, when you have an Evan Ingram injury, it's going to change the landscape where it's going to be harder to get tight ends later on. Now, the thing is, we looked at both of those teams that were picking between us, and we acknowledged the fact that they had both Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson. So I thought it was a lot more likely that they were actually drafting wide receivers at this turn compared to tight ends. So I figured that there was a decent chance we could take Michael Gallup and then still get Logan Thomas on the way back to us. And Dynasty says, sorry, Antonio Gibson and Chris Godwin for Najee Harris and Robert Woods in a full PPR. Okay, so if this is going to be, honestly, it doesn't matter if this is Dynasty or redraft. Dynasty, I have Chris Godwin multiple tiers ahead of a Robert Woods. Chris Godwin is 25 years old compared to Robert Woods, who's about to be 30. So yeah, I think that you actually go with Antonio Gibson and Chris Godwin. So now I have A.J. Dillon at the 806, Will Fuller at the 807. That's fantastic value. Imagine what happens to a Will Fuller if Deshaun Watson gets traded there. Just imagine. And Sharkio Scares Me says, how is Gus Edwards still on the board after the J.K. Dobbins injury? Terrified me with that message. And Gus Edwards went at the 701. Now, Gus Edwards at the 701 is ridiculous value. That is ridiculous value. Probably shouldn't have made it that far. But yeah, Gus Edwards went at the 6-7 turn. He's already off the board. Okay, so now we have Darnell Mooney, Michael Pittman going at the end of the 8th. So Aaron Rodgers, does he make it back to the Devontae Adams team? I'm imagining no. Actually, yeah. So Rom took Devontae Adams at the 103. So you have Zigzag taking both Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers on this team. So he actually has as many quarterbacks as he currently has running backs. He has Henry Mixon in the 1st and 2nd. He has Allen Rodgers in the 4th and the 8th. And then he has McLaurin, Jamar Chase, Deebo Samuel, and Kenny Golladay at receiver. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. So Tom Brady at the 8-12. I guess this is just a pick that I don't understand, to be honest. You're going to have access to a lot of quarterbacks at that 10-11 turn that are probably in the same tier as the Tom Brady, where I don't think you're going to have access to wide receivers that are in the same tier as a Curtis Samuel. So I'm not a fan of that Tom Brady selection at the 8-12, but honestly, kind of happy to see it because that team was dominant after getting CMC at the 101 and then Gus Edwards at the 701. So that team was looking really scary. I'm happy we see a little Red Fournette go with a Tom Brady just because I think it probably helps out our own team, to be honest. Now, Ronald Jones at the 902. This is about the range where I'm going to start looking for running backs again. I think we maybe switch it back over. Zach Moss does go at the 903. Michael Thomas. Thomas is a little less appealing in this format because we don't have the fantasy football playoffs, and instead, like I've said so many times before, but points at the beginning of the season matter just as much as points at the end of the year. Now, Michael Carter, someone I'm not considering drafting at this point. Marquez Calloway. Okay, now let's put this back over. Okay, so now when we're going to be back on the clock, we're also not going to really look at quarterback because when we take a Lamar Jackson, I mean, the reason we take Lamar is so we don't have to draft 2 quarterbacks on this team in a decent range. Instead, we can continue to get wide receiver and running back value in these rounds. Honestly, I mean, since we don't have the elite tight end, we could also look tight end. So we're just running back, receiver, tight end from here. Yeah. So Sony Michel does go at the 907. Okay, so I'm imagining Derek probably goes... Okay, so he goes Elijah Moore. Honestly, I didn't expect that whatsoever. I did not expect Derek to go that way. So we have some options. I think that if Riggs, he goes Robert Tonyan. Oh my God, Riggs, what team is he building? He has Kyler at quarterback, Higbee and Tonyan at tight end, and wide receiver, he only has Julio Jones. So now we're going Noah Fant. We're getting Noah Fant, and now we're not having to draft another tight end in this draft. And then from here, we'll just go through and I guess we'll get a running back or a receiver, whatever makes it back to us with this next pick. Yeah, so I guess in the 8th, we're taking Logan Thomas, and in the 9th, we're taking Noah Fant. We're a lot more likely to just invest more into the tight end position at this point, knowing that Irv Smith, a lot harder to come by. Yeah, so let's get Noah Fant. Let's get Robert Tonyan. Now, Hollywood Brown goes at the 9-11. There's still... Okay, Marvin Jones finally off the board at the 9-12. That's surprising. Usually you're seeing Marvin Jones go at like this 8-9 turn with the receivers like a Brandon Cooks, a Curtis Samuel. Usually you do not see Marvin Jones fall this far. I thought that we were going to end up taking Marvin Jones with our next pick. Instead, let's pull this over. And if this was a league that we were just drafting in, like where we have the fantasy football playoffs, we need points at the end of the season, I don't think we consider them. But in this league, however, where points matter just as much throughout the entire season, do we go with the Melvin Gordon here? I mean, we have 4 receivers. Yeah, so we're just going to go Melvin Gordon. I'm not going to be considering the quarterbacks in this range when we have a Lamar. So far at running back, we have Barkley, Chubb, Melvin Gordon. At receiver, we have Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett, Tyler Boyd, Michael Gallup. At quarterback, we have Lamar Jackson. At tight end, we have Logan Thomas and Noah Fant. So a much more balanced team than our last draft, but I think that's what we're trying to accomplish here. I don't necessarily think that we're trying to go very polar and just create a team that, I mean, has an elite level ceiling and not much else. So instead, let's go through and let's just try to create a nice balanced roster. You have Mike Gesicki going at the 10:05. Of course, we're trying to see these tight ends go off in a high range once we go through and once we're done drafting. I mean, once we get Logan Thomas and Noah Fant, it would be advantageous for us to kind of see these tight ends going. So every time we get that little blue check off the board, I mean, we're excited. We're excited. Now, Russell Gage there. James Conner at the 10:07. Really like the value with James Conner. And at this point, we're probably wanting wide receivers to make it back to us. Now, the wide receiver tier that we're going to be looking at starting in the 11th round is pretty damn gross, to be honest. But it kind of is what it is at this point. I think that we're just most likely going to make the pivot over, and we're just slamming wide receivers from here. Because we do have 4 guys, and 2 of them we can rely on. And Jayan, this is kind of why I decided to go with Tyler Lockett instead of James Robinson earlier on. I think that we kind of just had to. And then you have these quarterbacks going off. We want to see the quarterbacks off the board as well. Jalen Hurts going at the 10-11. I think that we kind of have to move Jalen Hurts down our rankings just slightly with the Gardner Minshew trade. Not because Gardner Minshew is better than Jalen Hurts or anything, because obviously that's not the case. More so it makes us question what we actually think the Philadelphia Eagles' confidence level is with a player like a Jalen Hurts. Because, I mean, they wouldn't necessarily continue to go out there and after Joe Flacco looks really good, just continue to pump resources into the quarterback room if they loved what they had in Jalen Hurts. Now, Dallas Goedert goes to the 11:02. Dallas Goedert, I remember I used to be drafting Goedert in the 9th. Oh my gosh, how the times have changed. How the times have changed. And guys, if y'all are new to the live stream, if y'all been a regular live stream for a very long time, make sure y'all go sign up for Underdog Fantasy, where we are drafting every single night. Make a $10 deposit with promo code FLOCK. You can find the link in the description of the video. You can find it in the live chat. And with that $10 deposit with promo code FLOCK, you get $25 added to your account. You get our 2021 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. You get our 2021 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. You get our rankings and tiers. And those are going to be updated all the way to the start of the season. So make sure you make that $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy. Come get in a draft with me. We're drafting all the time. And guys, it helps out the channel a ton. I promise you that. So please make sure y'all are going out there and helping us out. Let's switch this back over. So you have Jamal Williams at the 1107. And from here, I guess we could actually go running back, because the running backs are kind of drying up as well. Y'all know QBs. I'm not a massive fan of drafting Justin Fields. Trey Lance is my guy, not Justin Fields. We've been on that train all summer now. Emmanuel Sanders goes to the 1108. Okay, Bryan Edwards off the board, and all these teams between us only have 2 quarterbacks. I mean, we have 4 picks between us with teams that only have 2 running backs. So they only have 2 running backs, and they're loaded up on receiver. I think that we can actually get a receiver that we like making it back to us. So instead, let's make sure we get one of these running backs, because we're not going to have the option to get them on the way back. We're going to get a Devin Singletary in this instance. Devin Singletary, I actually really like the value that we're getting. I hated him with where he was going in drafts last year for obvious reasons. But now if we're just getting a piece of one of the most productive offenses in the NFL, and we're getting it at the 11-12 turn, I think we're going to be fine with Devin Singletary. Now, Mason's basement secret passes on Leonard Fournette. Very intriguing to see him pass on Fournette there. I did not expect that whatsoever. I did not expect that. So he pretty much gives him to Daddy Rabbit here, who only had 2 running backs as well. That's very surprising. So he's back up on the clock. Does he go QB now that he has 0 quarterbacks? I'd imagine. So he doesn't have a stack with, actually no, he has a stack with DJ Chark, Trevor Lawrence. So he goes Philip Lindsay. That's a very interesting turn of events. Now, we're not looking at tight end. We're not looking at quarterback. We're just a running back receiver from here. I guess. I know a lot of people are going to like. I know. Yeah, the running backs look like good values. We probably have to go Cole Beasley here, though. We're going to have to go Beasley. Just because this is another bet on the Buffalo Bills offense. This is another bet just saying, well, you know, this offense is going to be very productive. This is going to be a player getting a lot of targets, running a lot of routes. So yeah, let's take Beasley there. I really wanted to go Nyheim Hines, but I think going Singletary kind of boxes us out of that decision. Now let's switch this back over. And this is the team so far. We have Barkley, Nick Chubb, and then Melvin Gordon and Devin Singletary at running back. At receiver, we have Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett, Tyler Boyd, Michael Gallup. Cole Beasley. At tight end, we have Logan Thomas, Noah Fant, and we have Lamar Jackson at QB. Then Justin Fields going directly after. Okay, so Bo comes out, says, I got the first pick, and I don't know who to take at the 2-3 turn. It's a PPR, 3 wide receiver, 1 flex league. I love Waller/Keenan, open to anybody except Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Okay, so I'd say if this was a league where you only started 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, I mean, I would be all about just slamming in Darren Waller. But now, considering the fact that it's a league where you have to start 3 wide receivers, I actually think it's going to be more appealing to go with wide receivers with those selections. Now, if you do get Joe Mixon falling to you at the 2-3 turn, which is something that I have seen consistently happen, I actually think that you do need to start your draft off going like CMC, Joe Mixon, then Keenan Allen. But if that doesn't happen, I actually think that you take whatever wide receiver falls to you between like the AJ Brown, the Justin Jefferson, and then honestly, I would probably take a CeeDee Lamb here over the Allen Robinson as well. So the 4 wide receivers that we'd be looking at the 2-3 turn on the 101 team, if we do not get Joe Mixon making it back, are going to be Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, Keenan Allen, CeeDee Lamb. I would rank them as in AJ Brown, Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, CeeDee Lamb, just as they went off here. Okay. So now let's switch this back. Nyheim Hines makes it to the 1207. So it does give us a little boost of confidence to see him make it that far. And guys, we are about to pass 500 likes on the live stream. Thank you so much for going down there and dropping that like. And Giovanni says, how long does it take you to get the guide once you've joined Underdog? I want to make sure I did it right. My man, literally all you have to do is, like you saw in the description of the video when you found that Underdog link, just shoot me a DM on either Twitter, Instagram. If you don't have social media, that's completely fine. We have a link right there where you can join our fantasy football group chat. You can shoot me a DM there. And all you have to do is send me the email that you signed up for Underdog Fantasy with. That way I can go through, I can just go confirm, and I'll get it out to you like that. I'm going to be getting it out right after the live stream tonight, and I check those all the time. Okay, Mark Cleveland says, Jarrett Patterson and Jamison Crowder for Chris Evans and Bryan Edwards. I have the Edwards side. Honestly, at this point, man, I think that you just have to go with a Bryan Edwards. I mean, Bryan Edwards, you've just seen his value kind of take off as of late you've seen his value take off in Dynasty, and mainly, I will say, based on beat reports, but I think there's something to it, because whenever the beat reports were coming out and they were talking about Bryan Edwards, oh, Bryan Edwards looks so good. Bryan Edwards, this is a stud wide receiver. This is who we thought he was last year. I was kind of rolling my eyes going, oh my God, here we go again. This means nothing. But then all of a sudden, when we clearly see the Washington football team, John Brown, just as a backup level receiver, and Bryan Edwards is the full-time guy, that kind of has to really tell us where Bryan Edwards stands with this team. So I think Edwards is the best player available in the deal. I'm just going to be going Bryan Edwards. I'm assuming it's Dynasty with how deep it is. And Mark, I know you play Dynasty as well. Yeah, so MVS, Randall Cobb. Okay, switch this back over. Luke says, a shield auto the whole draft in my draft, and the team is horrendous. Thanks for donating to the pot, LOL. Okay, I'm happy to hear that. Down go the shields. Okay, so now when we are back on the clock, dear Lord, it's crazy to see these tight ends available at the top. Now, Jamison Crowder goes off the board. Now that we actually have Rashad Perriman off this team, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown makes a fantastic selection at the 13-10. Someone I haven't been drafting a lot, but I kind of think that we have to take him here. I think we have to. Now, Cole Kmet goes at the 13-11 in Mason's basement secret. He only has Eckler, Chase Edmonds, and Phillip Lindsay so far at running back. Then you have Gronkowski go at the 13-12. We like to see those tight ends go off the board. You have Tyrell Williams at the 14-01. I guess we could go quarterback here. The thing is, I think we're going to be very confident with the quarterback that we could get coming back to us. We don't have a stack in here with the Kirk Cousins. Do we go Gio? Do we go KJ Hamler? I'm honestly probably just going to get a KJ Hamler. I'm completely fine with the quarterbacks that we're going to be looking at the 15-16 turn when we take Lamar Jackson. A big reason why we take Lamar Jackson is going, okay, well, we know that we can get away with just not having to draft another quarterback for a very long time. So, yeah, we're going to go through and we're going to get KJ Hamler at the 14-03. And honestly, I'm kind of happy with how we've been able to balance our exposure a little bit on Lamar Jackson. He was someone that I really wanted to make an emphasis of going out and getting in more drafts. And we've got him in almost 8% of leagues now. So we've got him in more. I think that he is someone that we are unfairly avoiding in the 5th round previously. I guess you have Donovan Peoples-Jones, Giovanni Bernard. Switch this back over. Damien Williams at the 14-06. Damien Williams honestly was going earlier than this in previous drafts. It is surprising to see like Damien Williams skyrocket up and then just slightly dip back down in his value. Winston at the 14-07. Now, this is another thing that I don't get. Like, how is Winston all of a sudden like going over like Zach Wilson and everything? If you were this confident in Jameis Winston before, how is he not getting drafted at all previously? I mean, he went from being someone not getting drafted at all, then he's announced the starting quarterback for the Saints week 1, to where now he is a clear selection going rounds before players like Zach Wilson. That's something I don't understand. I saw it happening a lot this morning. I know it's not just Art Show doing this. A lot of people are doing this with Jameis Winston. I don't know what I'm missing here. I'm probably missing something. I just think that the risk in a league where you don't have access to go through and make the drop and make a transition, I think the risk is just a little too much for me that we actually see them go to Taysom Hill halfway through the year. Christian Kirk at the 14-10. Okay, guys, does anybody have an idea who my highest drafted player is so far? It's honestly embarrassing. Okay, guys, spam the chat right now who you think my highest drafted player is in drafts so far in 2021, at least on Underdog Fantasy. And I will say, this player, I do not have him in a single Dynasty League. It is surprising. I do not have this player in a single Dynasty League. However, he is my highest drafted player on Underdog Fantasy. Okay, so Kirk Cousins makes it to the 14-11 to a team that I'm assuming got Justin Jefferson. Jefferson in the second, then, Kirk Cousins of the 14-11. Okay, so Saram says Mike Evans. No, my man, not Mike Evans. Okay, so we have Dimitri, Derek, okay, CFO, all saying Josh Jacobs. Yeah, guys, Josh Jacobs. Obviously, someone like a Kareem Hunt, I'm going to have a lot in Dynasty, but Josh Jacobs was someone that was, in my opinion, at the beginning of the offseason, so overrated in Dynasty Fantasy Football. At last offseason, so overrated in Dynasty Fantasy Football and in redraft football. And when that price dipped down and we're getting in these drafts later on now on Underdog, it just a tiny price compared to what it used to be. I think now's the time to go through and get him. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Like I've just been saying to avoid him for so long now. I think the value's finally there to go out there and get a Josh Jacobs. Okay, now Irv Smith at the 1503. Dimey Brown. Okay, so come on. Get more tight ends off the board. Just get these crap tight ends off. I don't want to see a Jared Cook. I don't want to see an Austin Hooper here. We're not considering drafting them regardless. Tevin Coleman at the 1505. We're just QB, running back, and receiver from here. And we need 2 more running backs on this team. We need 2 more running backs, 1 more receiver, and 1 more quarterback. Yeah, we got 15, 6. Yeah, we have 4 more picks. Okay, we did the math correctly. That was a little concerning. Rashad Penny at the 1506. I was really hoping that we were actually getting Rashad Penny on this team. It does suck to see Rashad Penny go. Penny, y'all know that's one of my handcuff running backs we like trying to target every single draft. Now, if we're going to be talking about quarterbacks in this range where we're possibly going to be able to build the stack in with, obviously, we don't have access to Stafford. We don't have access to Wilson. We don't have access to Burrow, Dak, Allen. Don't want to draft Goff. Don't want to draft Teddy. If it's magic, we could get with Logan Thomas. I guess we could get a double stack with Teddy Bridgewater, KJ Hamler, Noah Fant. Mason's basement secret only has 1 quarterback, which is Baker Mayfield. He could go with 2 guys. Honestly, we're going to get a quarterback that we like making it back to us regardless. We're going to draft a running back that I've very rarely drafted, but I think we honestly kind of have to start getting him somewhere. So let's take David Johnson as our running back 5. It's not nice. Of course, we don't enjoy doing it, especially in the 15th round. But I think we're more so just looking for players that could maybe get touches. And I think David Johnson's that. Bo says, how long can you punt the running back 2 position for? Thanks. Okay, my man, it's going to mainly depend on the format that you're playing on. So if you're playing in a league where you can only start 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and a tight end, and then you have 1 flex, you can't really accomplish much by punting running back because you only have so many receivers that can make an impact in your starting lineup. However, if you're playing in a league where you can start 3 wide receivers and you have 2 flex spots, hell, then you can punt running back through the first 7 rounds. So it depends on your format. I'll say if you're playing in a league where it's 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, and a flex, you could probably punt running back for 4 or 5 rounds, and not very long at all. Not very long at all. Okay, Anthony says, how do I get in a money draft with you? The first thing that you need to do is sign up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK and make a $10 deposit. When you sign up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK and make that $10 deposit, you can get into these drafts with me. We live stream every single night. And also with that promo code, you are going to end up getting $25 added to your account on a $10 deposit. You are also going to get our 2021 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. You are going to get our 2021 rankings and tiers. So make sure you go through and use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy if you want to get in one of these real money drafts. We're doing this every single night. And guys, if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you go down there and hit that sub button. Okay, Kenneth Gainwell at the 1605. Let me see how many subscribers we've actually gotten to. Okay, Kenneth Gainwell at the 1605. And I'm assuming the running backs that we're going to be looking at in the next round are going to be pretty damn gross. Zach Wilson at the 1606. Deshawn Jackson at the 1607. Tony Jones. Let me know if y'all think that I made a mistake in taking David Johnson over Tony Jones. I know this is someone all of a sudden a lot of people want to be drafting. I mean, he's continuing to go higher and higher. Alan says, I haven't seen you go hero running back or even zero running back yet. It's proven to be a safer winning strategy. Why is that? Alan, did you go through and look at my last draft? My last draft, I waited until the 7th round to draft a running back. So you can come out here and say that you haven't seen something, but clearly you're not watching. So yeah, don't necessarily, just because we draft back-to-back running backs in the 1st and 2nd round here, come out here and say we never do that. Okay, Anthony says, once I sign up for Underdog Fantasy, how do I get in your league? Okay, so the first draft that we do every single night, that's going to be filled through that's going to be through Patreon, where I'm going to send the link out to the draft over there on Patreon to start the live stream every single night. Then from there, we'll do like 2 or 3 more fantasy drafts, and all those links are going to get sent out in the private chat, where if we're doing a $250 draft, that's going to be through the public lobby on Underdog Fantasy. I'll make the announcement on the live stream as we are going through and filling that. However, if we're going to be doing a draft like we just did with this $50 league, I'm going to be going through and you'll see a full face cam of me when we're setting it up. And I'm saying, guys, this is going to be a $50 fantasy draft. We will go through and we'll send the link out in the live chat, and I'll label it $50 draft, and then it'll be a link right there. And you go through, you click that link, then you hop in the draft with us. So yeah, it's mainly just based on private drafts. And then that automated link that you're going to see get sent out time and time again in the live chat, that's going to be to help you get set up on Underdog Fantasy, because they do need to verify your account. They need to make sure that you're a real person, because they're adding $25 to it with promo code FLOCK. So they can't have you creating a bunch of bogus accounts, because all of a sudden, obviously, that's a large issue. So yeah, they have to verify that you're a real person. For me, that took about 3 or 4 minutes. I know a lot of other people in the chat said it was instantaneous. I think maybe it's by the state that you are in. So yeah, just go set up that account, and then you'll see me whenever we have the full screen on me. If I'm setting up another draft, you'll see me go through and say, okay, well, this is going to be our next draft. It's $10. And then we'll send a $10 draft out. And then it'll have a link right after you click the link, and it's a private draft. Okay, so now let's switch this back over. Zach Ertz at the 1706. Now we're not looking quarterback. We are not looking tight end. We need 1 more running back and 1 more receiver on this team. So running back, we need to be quiet, because Derek has Zeke, Gibson, Mostert, Gio, Kenneth Gainwell. So possibly, yeah, he goes Jared Cook actually as his 3rd tight end. I'm fine having 3 tight ends on that team. And then Riggs coming out has Aaron Jones. So he goes Quez Watkins. So we're going to get Ty Johnson here. I think we have to move Ty Johnson up. Yeah, Ty Johnson at the 1710. And then with our last pick, it's just going to be a receiver. Now, Ray Gunn coming out with their donation says, I traded Amari, AJ Dillon for Gus Edwards, Cooper Kupp. What are your thoughts? My man, I love that Dillon. I love that trade. You're actually just trading Amari Cooper for Cooper Kupp, kind of in the same tier, and you're upgrading from AJ Dillon to Gus Edwards. That's a no-brainer trade. And if that's just a 2021 redraft team, that's fantastic, my man. John says, can you check out the 102? Thanks. Yes, sir. As soon as we get done with this next selection, I'd be happy to go through and look at the 102 for you. Okay. So we have Daniel Jones going at the 1711. Who's available at QB? Yeah, Carson Wentz. It's crazy that Wentz is in this range now. I mean, Carson Wentz before the injury was going way higher than this. So Daddy Rabbit on the clock. Probably at this point, okay, so he goes Larry Roundtree. Honestly, we kind of want to see these teams go running back here. Okay, Basement Seeker only has Eckler, Edmonds, Lindsey, Darrington Evans. We're 100% getting a wide receiver making it back to us. I don't even know what wide receiver we would want in this range. Nobody really stands out. Rashad Perriman, before he got cut, I'd be drafting him here every single time. Now, beyond that, I think that we're actually probably going to take Dwayne Eskridge. I mean, between him and Darius Slayton, let's just take Darius Slayton. Who the hell cares? Let's go and show off this draft board. Let's look at the 102 real quick and the 106 for Art Show. My man, thank you so much. And let's go look at the 102 first, where at running back, it's Kamara, Sanders, Gaskin, and then Ronald Jones. Okay, so a lot of guaranteed touches at running back. Ramondre Stevenson in the 12th, and then Carlos Hyde as well. I want to say, when you go with these 5 running backs in particular, like when you have Kamara, Miles Sanders, Miles Gaskin, I may be just sticking in with 5 running backs and not going out and getting a 6. Like, we took 6 running backs, but we waited and got players that weren't necessarily as exciting. It's just something on the boundary. I don't know the correct answer with it. But after that, at receiver, obviously Jefferson, Allen Robinson, Deontay Johnson, Devonta Smith, Brandon Cooks, Paris Campbell. I mean, you get a double stack here real quick that we will point out with Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goedert. Paris Campbell should be rising up with the T.Y. Hilton injury. Now, I'll say, also, when you take Jalen Hurts and Kirk Cousins, maybe we want to be taking 3 QBs. I just think, honestly, here, I think we want more receivers on this roster. I think we want more receivers on this roster to try to capture some spike weeks. Now, we are going to look at the 106 right after this. We got to make sure that we are setting this up correctly, because I know the draft's about to end. It's going to just freak out on us real quick. So let's look at the 106 really quickly. Okay, so the 106 here. Okay, this is a Travis Kelce team. Okay, so obviously with a Kelce team, this is going to be a spot where you're not going to be as confident with the running back or receiver, but what's going to allow you to do with Kelce is it's going to allow you to not have to go through and roster another tight end. So if we show off this draft board real quick, I mean, you are going to have Metcalf, Robert Woods in the 2nd, 3rd round. Love getting Robinson here as your first. I mean, this is like a cheat code getting Allen Robinson, where Allen Robinson was a good value here when Jayan was telling us to get him at the 403. But the problem is I just didn't have the wide receiver value that you did with DK Metcalf and Robert Woods. So when you get a James Robinson at the 407, that is a cheat code with Josh Jacobs, Laviska Shenault, Russell Wilson in the 7th to stack with DK Metcalf, Fuller, Marquez Calloway, James Conner, Gabriel Davis, Naheem Hines, Randall Cobb, Winston. Let me know your explanation on Winston. I don't see a reason in drafting Winston in the 14th over like Big Ben, Derek Carr, Zach Wilson. Guys, we know we're starting all 16 weeks a couple rounds later. Like, I just can't get behind Winston here. I know a lot of people are doing it, though. It's not just you. Penny, I really wanted to fall to us. Zach Ertz, the perfect guy to go through and stack with a Travis Kelce, just someone that's going to have a high floor weekly. And then Tyson Williams, where I don't know what to make of it. I think that they're going to bring someone in, but obviously it's an 18th round selection. I will say, I think Art Show probably is the best team there. The only thing I don't really understand is going to be the Jameis Winston call. But yeah, thank you, my dudes. I think that we're probably going to be done with the live stream tonight. This is my girlfriend's last night in Florida, so we'll probably be cutting it here. It's about to be midnight, and I'll do 4 drafts for y'all tomorrow night. I'll do 4 drafts. I did over 20 podcasts today on Patreon breaking down people's teams, so y'all can probably hear it in my voice that I am completely broken. And a reminder, guys, sign up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK. We're going to be streaming real money fantasy drafts every single night until the season starts. So make sure you go through, make sure you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, promo code FLOCK. When you use promo code FLOCK, you can find the link in the description of the video in the live chat, and you make that $10 deposit. You get $25 added to your account. You get our 2021 Fantasy Football Draft Guide, our 2021 rankings, our 2021 tiers, all of which are going to be updated to the start of the 2021 season. And also, all you have to do is make that $10 deposit, and once you do, shoot me a DM on either Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, Discord, anywhere you can find, even if you don't have social media, just information on how to contact me in the description of the video. Really easy. And just give me the email that you signed up for Underdog Fantasy with. That way I can go through, and that way I can send you that draft guide and confirm that you use promo code FLOCK, and I will do that right away. I'm going to be doing that for probably the next hour right after we end this live stream. But thank you, my dudes. I really hope that y'all had a good time, and I really hope that I see y'all in the live stream tomorrow night.